Thanks for sending me all those pictures, man. I got them.
You're feeling good. We're waiting for Councilman Vasquez. No problem. Call the roll, please.
Mayor Mitchell.
Here.
Vice Mayor Fahed.
Here.
Councilman Best.
Present.
Councilwoman Bravo.
Here.
Councilman Vasquez.
Here.
There is a quorum present.
Did the light turn on? A little light.
Maria, pull it up.
It's
Pull it
on.
up.
It's on.
It's on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right, I'll stand please for the invocation. Our blessed Lord, we ask that you watch over us today, that you guide us in our decision-making, that you provide us the wisdom to ask the right questions, to look toward the future of our city, and also be pragmatic about the realities of today. With this, we ask for your guidance and blessings. Amen.
Amen.
Everyone join us for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hey, welcome everyone to our first budget workshop of 2022. It's Monday, August 15th. And let's see, we'll get started. Well, William, I'll let you
Yeah, I'll start
over.
with, let me read into the record the memo that's in your packet. In preparation for the first budget workshop scheduled for August 15, 2022, we're presenting council with the fiscal year 22-23 budget workbook, which includes various options and alternatives to assist council in making sound financial decisions when addressing the proposed 22-23 budget, which lowers the millage rate from the current 7.2095 to 6.9900. This rate results in a deficit of 108,478, which will be funded from available fund balance. We are currently projecting to have excess fund balance of approximately $300,000 at the end of fiscal year 21-22. So after deducting the deficit I mentioned above, we would still have an additional 191,522 that council could use to fund some of the wish list items or any other items council will be considering for next budget year. The last time our millage rate was under 7 was in 2012 when it was set at 6.7400. Our highest rate in 2003 when the millage rate was 8.7440. For fiscal year 2022, each 1/10 of a mill is worth, and I need you to correct the number, it should be 137,039 in ad valorem revenues. The general fund budget is 20,139,931, of which 12,728,863 or 63.2% represents employee salaries and benefits. This leaves 7.4 million, a little over 7.4 million to cover all other city needs. The following are some of the more significant budget funding requirements that are included in the budget. For fiscal year 22-23, we have total capital expenditures of 368,589. The general fund portion is 356,300, which includes the following. Parks and Recreation has $30,000 to renovate the pool deck, 25,000 to laser grade Stafford and PB Park, 25,000 to renovate the tennis courts, 40,000 to renovate the NPR or the so-called heat room, and the community center front desk cabinetry, and $25,000 for a new work truck. Police has 20,000 for a digital marquee at the circle, 12,000 for 5 Tough Book laptops, 114,000 for 2 canine vehicles, and 50,300 for an additional police vehicle. The following are other funds that do not affect the general fund. The sanitation department, which is an enterprise fund, has $27,829 for a new Ford Ranger Super Cab. For fiscal year 22-23, we'll be adding an additional code enforcement officer as well as a chemical applicator in the golf maintenance department. Number three, health insurance costs will increase by 9% for fiscal year 22-23. The total cost of this increase for the general fund is approximately $60,508. Fiscal year 22-23, the budget includes a 4% COLA for all general employees. Total general fund cost of this is approximately $136,596. Budget also includes a police 3% COLA per contract. Total cost of the general fund is $118,271. Budget also includes an annual increase in the city attorney budget of $12,000. It includes $45,000 for the city's lobbyists, as well as $36,000 for the grant writer services. The public works budget includes $50,000 for citywide tree planting and $100,000 for tree trimming. Council budget includes $35,000 funding requests from CMI for next fiscal year, $14,000 for the River Cities Festival. I need you to correct that number for Pelican Playhouse should be $31,400, not 29, right? $31,400, which is the same amount as last year. And it also includes a $12,620 request from the Historic Museum for storage costs and fencing and a new storage trailer. The city's accumulated a healthy reserve balance over the years in order to meet unexpected disasters. It is projected that at the end of fiscal year 2022, the available and unrestricted general fund balance will be approximately $5.2 million. And then I go on into the GFO requirement of 15%, of which the city uses really at 25%. So on the last paragraph, just to mention on page 1.3, I provide some possible reductions based on past history and experience with previous budget workshops. Some of the proposed reductions affect service levels and some do not. Some affect employee pay and benefits, while other affects current programs and subsidies. Page 1.4 lists some budget considerations, the so-called wish list, that are not included in this base budget discussed above, but are presented for council discussion and consideration. Some of the items include the improvements to our recreational facility at the community center and aquatic center, as well as citizens communication app. And we added a couple of other things that were suggested by council. One is the mayor's the one that provided. You look at page 1.4, purchase equipment to give us the ability to be able to hold movie nights on our own and do it on a more frequent basis. Councilman Best suggested adding a tiki hut and water fountain at the tennis courts. And Councilwoman Bravo constructing a bandstand at the Circle Gazebo, and she provided pictures of that. And that's on page 1.5. It's a financial dashboard showing the history of millage rates over the past 20 years, as well as fund balances during these years. And finally, page 1.6 provides council with a graphic view of the city's funds and their relation to each other and to the general fund. Before we start on section 2, the first budget, which is the city council, I just want to remind you that we have 2 workshops, this one and the next one at the end of August. And then we have the 2 public hearings. And it isn't until the second public hearing in September that we need to finalize the budget. So as we did last year, we can start taking notes. And then after we do the 2 workshops, then we can start getting to the nitty gritty.
Through the chair, and as the mayor suggested, if necessary, we could add another special meeting to that if necessary.
Okay, so let's start off with the city council budget. Let me read some of the highlights on page 2-3. The proposed budget is $3,124, or 1.8% lower than the prior year. And you'll see that the total budget is $168,732. The promotions line item is a lump sum of $85,220, which is made up of the following. $37,600 will be allocated during the year to the following events: the Stafford Golf Tournament, $2,000; River Cities Festival, $14,000; car shows, $3,000; city events, $8,000; employee holiday dinner, $5,000; police appreciation dinner, $3,000; And the city shred events, 2,600. 35,000 has been allocated to the Curtis Mansion to assist with their annual operating costs. And 12,620, as I mentioned before, has been allocated to the Historic Museum for storage costs and new fencing around the facility.
Earlier, when you talked about the historical museum, the
Mhm.
storage fencing, was there something else?
Yeah, storage container.
Container,
And
storage.
we'll,
In addition to the storage cost.
Correct.
That was my understanding, yeah.
if you look, Mayor, at page 2-12 is the email I received from Lily. And climate control storage, 7,500. Purchase of a storage container, 2,000,
$1,000.
for a total of 9,500. And at the bottom, they're adding $3,120 to add fencing to the back of the property. And I know Mr. Petrolanda, the president of he's here and he would like to address council on some of these items.
No president and former councilman.
Yes, thank you. This is working. How's everybody doing?
Good, how are you?
Mayor, council,
How are you?
doing great. Tired from Friday. I want to clear something. The container is not for storage, it's for a classroom. I have a quote here that I was able to get really high. But the container is, let me give it to you. Because we want to build classrooms, so.
And no other students? As an exclusive.
Yeah, right.
Just kidding, no,
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I'm sorry.
And the chair. That's not $2,000.
So that's a plan to,
Timing,
yes,
this is very different from. Am I reading this? Am I the only one?
No, what did Lily mean in her email when she says purchase a storage container?
the container, that's the container that I showed you.
Where did she got $2,000?
Well, we're gonna, it's a $90,000 container. We gotta start saving up. And with the fundraising we plan to do, we hope to get there, but I hope not to have to pay that kind of money. That's a lot of money. So I'm thinking that's a 40-foot container. We can get half of it and get it cheaper and, talk to folks, see if they can donate some of it. We hope to get it down to maybe 15,000. So this is kind of where we start saving for that, maybe
Where is this going?
on
Where would
the,
the container go?
The other thing he needs to discuss with you, show him the layout for the fence and behind the building and where you wanted to put the container.
It's the fence. I got that.
Hold on.
This is the fence.
so one of the reasons we need the fence is because of, we plan to put some tiles up and we don't want them to get damaged. The other one is we want to also create a butterfly gardens if we can. We've had issues. I showed you with the water, people opening up the water back, the spigot in the back. We have a problem with the liability. A lot of the kids are coming over and using the cement slab to ride their skateboards and skate. So we're concerned that somebody might get hurt. So those are the reasons why we need the fence.
Councilman, let me ask you a question through the chair, sorry. Your fence,
Mhm.
do you not abut a shared parking lot with the business to the south of you where the building currently is on East Drive?
The fence will
You share a parking lot with a bunch of people. So I'm not getting the fence thing.
well, the fence, look at the diagram.
I did.
It's
I just
not,
did.
it's only 150 linear feet.
So
It's not, it's maybe from here to the, going from the building, it will go this way up parallel to the
And then-
parking lot, and then it goes in that way.
right, I see your
So
drawing.
there's plenty of space for people to park and be able to walk.
But your concern is theft, right? People breaking in and all this.
That, and also the,
Yet
we got to
through,
put tiles.
right, but yet through half the day, it's going to be a shared parking lot where anybody and his brother could get in there. So is there access to that through does the fence preclude somebody from
Oh,
getting?
no, that's what I said.
That's
No,
kinda where
what
I'm
I said.
going with
That
this.
was one of my concerns. I don't want to put a fence up and not allow people to walk from the parking lot
Right.
into the park.
Right.
Absolutely. No, it's not.
I mean, it would be helpful if you could like take like go to Google Maps and kind of show us.
Yeah.
Like where in relation to the building, in relation to everything around it. This goes, I mean, I understand. Because I'm there, I understand that you get people that are loitering in the back and like people sitting, so like, I understand the point of the fence. I think it might ease everybody's concerns if they could see like bird's eye view of how much area you're cordoning off. But that actually leads me to a question that leads me to the container, is that this is, so like Dade County School property that's leased to the city, but what is our responsibility to get permission to cordon off an area? Do we have to? And then like I'm more concerned about the container. That's got to be connected.
That's
like,
Oh, that's
that's-
gotta be.
all right. That's a big thing.
We're talking about maybe
And
a
then-
couple of years from now.
Right. No, and I mean, even with all that, like having kids inside
No,
a
You,
container,
you
I
would
can tell
need,
you.
you
it's
would
like-
have to go through the school board to get the permit.
Yeah.
Right.
Have
I,
this installed.
But like I
Yeah,
said,
that's
that's
gonna
a
be-
few years from now. We just put it in the budget, but
This container will need a foundation and stuff if this is just the container.
well,
there's-
that price there includes everything, but that's out of reach.
Right,
though,
but
for us.
you got to
Even with all the fundraising we're doing, that's out of reach for now.
you got to connect electrically, and I don't mean to like rain on your parade, but like you probably should start communicating with some people, because I know that if it's on Dade County School property and you're going to have kids inside there, like a classroom, like there's all kinds of like, liability and things that they're going to require, like it could become prohibitive to even go down this road. I'm just letting you know, like, I know you're going to fundraise no matter what, but just like start thinking ahead about that, because obviously in my line of work, I know that having kids in a classroom on Dade County School property, like there's all kinds of things that like a communication, like, I mean, obviously it's a container, right? But like you make sure you do your homework before you
Right.
put a deposit down on anything, or
No,
or
we're
go
not.
too far down the rabbit hole, because that's having kids in there is a different thing than fencing off that area.
Right. No, I hear you. Like I said, we just put it in the budget, but we're talking about 2 or 3 years from now, if that. That's kind of a hopeful.
To the chair. Jaime, what do you need the container for? Exactly.
For you can look at the
No, I know, you just gave it to me now, but I have you in front of me, so.
no,
if you
but
could just tell me what.
did you look at the pictures?
Yeah, I saw the pictures.
That's basically for an office and maybe a classroom. Because the museum is kind of small. We don't have place to, maybe if we bring field
You're not
trips.
gonna use it for storage?
No, it's not for storage. No, we already have, we have 2 units. We don't need any more storage.
I don't know.
That's actually the bigger issue. If it were for storage, I think it would be easier to get on there and.
But the
Well, I
problem,
just wanna like, I wanna know the intended use, and if there's a plan, is there a 5-year plan? What's this gonna be used for?
Yeah,
What type
5-year
of
plan.
Programs, I mean, I don't
5-year
know
plan.
what- And again, to piggyback off of what Councilman Fajay said, that's a big thing.
You know, he's telling you 5-year plan.
Yeah, I
5-year
mean,
plan, yeah.
I don't even think it's, I mean,
At that rate, if we can't get any cheaper, it's a year plan. It's
a
like
5-year
$90,000.
plan on-
But I mean,
on
since you're
your
coming,
account.
since you're coming to the council for $2,000 to kind of like start up,
saving.
like I would feel more comfortable if you kind of like research the viability of something like this on Dade County. Because I know that that's, I know that there's an agreement between the city and Dade County Schools, but I could tell you from my experience that like, if it were a storage container, that'd be one thing. Right?
Okay.
But if it's, like tying into electrical and having students in there and the liability and the safety and everything else, like that's going to be a bigger thing. Since you're already, like if you had more of a sense of how this can work, then I think it'd be easier to come to the to the council and be like, hey, look, start us off some seed money here, start us off with $2,000. But like, to me, this is like a giant box of question marks when it comes to the container aspect of it. I'm 100% on board. I know the students from the middle school, from AIE, all hang out there, people that are at the park. Like, I understand the need for the fence. And if I'm envisioning what you mean, like, you're not really area, it's just providing you some space so that people don't loiter, because I know they skate back there. So like that, but I think my two suggestions, do like a Google Maps bird's eye view of the area and just kind of draw out where the fence would go so we have a sense. And then I would say do a lot more research on the container classroom, since you're coming to us for, a start on the fundraising for that.
You got it.
Through the chair.
Yes, sir.
I think I understand the concept. I mean, I think with the music, what you guys are trying to do is to create a space as part of what you have there to do educational program.
Absolutely.
And that should be a plan. You should be a plan and say, look, we'd like to do this and we want to expand to have this classroom space as part of an overall project. And then, of course, all of the issues questions that Councilman Fayette raised, because then it's school property and all the other permitting that goes along. But I think it's helpful to just say, we want to do educational work. We want to expand, so we're going to need space. A container could be a way of doing that. And then, put it into kind of a, 3-5 year plan.
That's the.
I mean, I
goal.
think that's what you're trying to do,
That's
right?
exactly what we want. We want to be able to provide educational lessons and
Yeah,
bring kids. for
I
field
understand
trips.
it's a really tight space. You can't bring in a class in it.
No, you're seeing the.
Yeah,
the
it's not-
museum is
not-
kinda
not-
small.
not-
That could be the museum, and then we can have classrooms
Of course,
outside.
of course, yeah.
Absolutely.
You, through the chair,
Yes.
you mentioned on, here on a note that your concern was the back wall and the hitting of the AC, right? Your concern was damage to the AC unit?
Well, that and water, people have been opening the waters, the water spigot there. We're gonna put tiles that a lot of folks bought tiles and we wanted to put it on the wall. If we put those things on the wall, we don't have fence.
You
the
can put a
kids-
lock on the water spigot.
We did, but they keep opening it. I mean, I showed it to the mayor.
Grips is,
Oh.
you can loosen it a little bit,
Yeah.
I guess, the locks.
So that's the problem we're having. And then we have electrical in the back. We have the AC. We're putting tiles up. Then the kids are riding on the deck and they might get hurt. So that's that's the biggest concern, to be honest, the liability that we have, because I see kids, not only the middle school kids, I mean, just kids in general,
Okay.
going over there with a skateboard and roller skates, and
Anywhere
we're
they
afraid
can.
that somebody's going to get hurt. If I can, Mayor, if I want to just touch a little bit about what I've done, or the new administration has done since we took over.
Can I ask one more question, Jamie, before you go on? I saw two things on this fence quote. I saw like a decorative aluminum fence and I saw chain link. So which is the plan?
Well, I got too close because the mayor, when she went out there, she didn't like the chain link fence.
Told me he was gonna put a chain link. I go, I
Yeah.
think that is,
Why?
which is also one of my concerns, but I have several others with the container, but this is very unsightly. This container, to put it out there, it looks like we're on a construction site, so but I have a few issues. Look, go ahead and, a few questions I wanted to ask you.
About
Do you
the
have another
fence?
question, Councilman?
No, that was, so then you haven't
What?
decided between the two,
Well, one is $8,000.
huh?
One is $8,000.
Look at the quote, 3,900
Yeah,
for
no, I
chain
see
link
it.
and 8,600
So,
for the.
so my
decorative.
plan was, in order to accommodate everyone, is maybe do a chain link fence, then put clusias. You're gonna cover the chain link fence. Then on the gates, we'll make the nice gates. So if you're looking at it, you see nice gates, but the fence is all covered up because everybody wants privacy. So why spend $8,000 on a fence that you're gonna put plants on front and cover it up?
Couldn't you put the plants without fence? Those plants grow really
Mhm.
well. You really don't, kind of defeats.
Wrigley Field, Jamie.
I didn't think
There's
of
a
that.
wall behind the ivy.
I had a few
Really
things
feel.
I wanted to ask you. Do you want to go ahead and read that first or continue this discussion? I guess.
No, go
let's
ahead.
con-
Let's
Since
just
we're
one thing
already
at a
on this,
time.
okay, this fence, the chain link or the wrought iron.
And I'm getting another
is-
quote, by the
Is
way,
that a 4 foot or a 6 foot?
6 foot.
6 foot. Okay.
But I'm getting another quote because I think that's a little high. This is the one we got from
My
Island
thing
Fence.
is, look, we've worked really hard to make that an attractive place and, I think in Miami Springs and in government throughout, sometimes we do the minimal, and it doesn't cost that much more to make it look nice. And I think the senior center is a great example of that, of not just providing a facility for them to come eat and lift a few weights. You know, we really went out and made something very, very attractive, and it shows by the usage of it, you know, that people appreciate that. So we're going to pay for a fence for that area. I mean, a chain link is so unsightly. It'd be
You're gonna
nice to
cover
make
it,
it
though.
nice, but if you're going to plant anyway and it's going to cover it, then perhaps you don't need the fence. You just put in the plants and,
But how about in the
Those-
meanwhile while they grow?
well, but they don't, some of them grow, well, anyway.
I have them.
about
They're
that,
about
but-
4 feet wide in my
Yeah,
backyard.
they grow
9
very
feet tall.
quickly, about the same. The other thing I wanted to ask you with the classroom, this is a really long-term project to raise the 96,000, but it's not just that, it's the operating cost. Because you're gonna have to pay for electricity, for water, for, you know what, so it's not even a 96, it's an annual operating cost that could be pretty extensive, because I'm guessing the air conditioning and stuff for a metal container is not gonna run cheap. And the furnishings inside, from what you're showing here of classrooms and everything, so
We
but
can
I'm
get that
also
donated.
curious as to what, I'm just throwing this out there, okay? The educational part of it is in the museum,
Yes.
right? So why would you need to have a separate classroom for the kids to go sit? And the other thing too is possibly if you do need a separate classroom, I think because we're in Florida, that concrete slab that you have in the back, that's pretty large. If perhaps putting a canopy on it to provide shade and putting tables out there and the kids can sit out there, to me, that's much more, I think it's more interesting for the kids to be outdoors. We don't give them enough chances to be outdoors, and they're connected so that you open the sliding glass door or whatever door that is, and you're inside the museum instead of in a separate facility.
That works.
If you really needed to use a classroom, I'm guessing, I'm throwing this out there, just borrow one from Principal Fahet. I'm sure he's got plenty. He's right next door, or the middle school, but perhaps occasionally there's an empty classroom, lunchtime, I don't know, certain periods where, you know, it might be available, or after school, because actually this would be after school or it'd be during school. I don't, well, you'll worry about that.
Yeah, we have to,
But perhaps,
up with a
you know, that's
lesson.
walking distance. You've got 2 schools right there
yes.
that if you needed the classroom, but I envision that most of your work is going to be inside the museum itself, not in a separate building. So those are just thoughts, because I know you're looking at this long term, but
Through the
sort
chair.
of
And-
saving pennies for a $96,000 container, which the operating cost itself is going to be a monumental amount.
Mayor, if I could just piggyback something. So so I agree with what the mayor is saying. If you're gonna have a classroom that's separate from the museum, then you kind of lose a little bit of that effect. But there's a lot of programs in Dade County schools that they have like a mobile, you know, like a mobile presentation, like it's like a trailer. They pull up to the school, they've got stuff. So basically you're taking the museum to them. You walk people through it. You talk to them, like you might consider something like that rather than like a permanent classroom waiting for people to come to. You could have something that you can drive out to various schools and have kids walk through it. Like something like that might be a little more viable. A lot of people do that, like this aquarium, like all kinds of, they have like mobile STEM labs. They come out, your kids walk through it. You might, you know, that might be something that, you know, it's like a mobile
Sure.
museum display. You can teach the kids. And it'll probably be a lot cheaper than something like
That's-
this.
That's really high. I mean, I just got that today, but.
Yeah, no, I got you.
I don't
I
think you
got
need to hold off if, and the canopy may be, and perhaps you can get quotes on that, because obviously you need to be, I mean, that's open sun, you need to have shade.
I'm working on that
But
too.
perhaps a canopy is something more reasonable, more attainable. And that, you know, with a long table or several long tables out there. and some
Couches.
Couch, bean bags, that's what kids like now. You could, you don't have to wait. You don't have to put aside the, on hold, the educational aspect,
Right.
waiting to get money for the storage container and then, you know, furnishing it and everything, which I think is 5 years down the road
At
is,
least.
is right.
Yeah,
is
those prices.
conservative. So this is something you could start doing now in smaller groups and, you know, of 20 kids, or I don't know what the space is there, but
And through the chair, and in addition, I've spoke about this for years up here. My hope one day is that your organization will end up merging with the CMI. And here we are talking about spending money on school board property versus doing what we should on city property. I mean, I just don't get this. I mean, it's just, anyway, that's just me.
else? I had one other question, Councilman, about.
Yes, I just
the-
wanted to, so going back to points that both of you were making, and I was saying earlier, is for you all to continue to review these plans. I agree, you know, as an educator, pedagogical space, right? So one thing is to walk through a museum, and as you go to many different museums, and then they have these little conference rooms where then you can engage students in a conversation, a discussion about what they've just seen. The suggestion of mobile piece, that's all great. So I just think I see the pedagogical importance of what you're saying, and I support it. And it's figuring out what's the best way forward, given the space, given that it's a Miami-Dade County Public School space and so forth. I like, thinking and, eventually, the Curtis Mansion or whatever. But I like the idea of having the pedagogical space as part of the museum. That's my point. And what form it takes, a canopy or something, because I do think
all
I do think that
suggestions.
in the case of the space that you have, that you can walk a class through 15, 20 students, they get an appreciation, but they can't sit down and they can't really have a good follow-up conversation. That's my suggestion.
I hear you and I agree with you. As
No,
a
and that's why
teacher,
the slab in the back might be something to look at for as a resource.
Eventually,
You've
that
already
could
got
be, yeah.
that, and it's a large resource and it's connected. But one other thought is the concession stand. A few meetings ago, you came to us and asked to use the concession stand to,
That's one of the things I was gonna touch bases.
He's got a few more things that he wants to discuss with you.
okay.
I just wanted to,
I wanted to ask you, is the concession stand available as a classroom?
it's a classroom. I think it's too
What
small.
does it
What do you
look
think?
like?
Omar?
I don't need, I haven't
know,
seen
I
it in
don't know.
ages.
Too small and it's
I don't
full
think-
of equipment.
you wouldn't be able to
a
get a
fridge and- Right, but the concession part of it, there's a lot of equipment, fridge and stuff like that. And it's kind of small, but maybe not. If we clear it out,
I
maybe.
mean, maybe the money that you're getting from selling concessions, which may be a lot, may not be a lot. This may be, it's just a thought again too.
Yeah, I'd like that. Let me look at it again. I've only been in there once. The Omar was nice enough to open the door for me, but I haven't really looked at it from that point of view, that maybe that makes more sense than try to sell stuff out of it. If we
Through
can
the
use
chair.
that.
Now you mentioned that selling stuff, and I want to piggyback off of what Councilman Best said. I had a couple of ideas. I know that you guys have a storage. It's a $12,000 that we're giving in donations to you guys to keep up with that. I know we had this conversation last year. I don't know what you have in the storage. I know that there's probably a lot of beautiful things. I don't know what's in there again, but there's a couple of ideas I have.
Okay.
I don't know. I just want to see the showcasing of these items one way or another, instead of spending money on storage. If it's never going to be shown, and we know it's never going to be shown, or you guys are rotating material and coming in and out, I have a couple suggestions, because I think that Glenn Curtis, as you know, you guys are dedicating yourself to the city's history. I want to bring those things out to light. So in respects to historical society and the Curtis Mansion, I mean, these two things complement each other. So I'd like to get, again, I don't know what you have in your storage, how much you have in your storage, what can actually be displayed, what cannot be displayed, but we can maybe disperse these items into different areas, and instead of spending the 12,000 plus on storage, we can actually maybe invest, the city can invest this money into getting really good showcasing with a key. So for example, you can get some stuff and put it at the Curtis Mansion, perhaps on the second floor. I know they have a beautiful open room with plenty of walls, something tasteful that fits in well. So when they have cocktail hours or when they have field trips or something, because something to showcase our history, because we have, I'm sure that there's field trips that go through and you see some stuff, but you don't see much. So I want to kind of like complement and bring it all together. Sorry, my throat's a little dry. The senior center, that's another beautiful place where we can showcase and display. The recreation center, I mean, I haven't talked to Omar, but maybe in some rooms there that we have in a corner or a wall, again, secured storage and showcasing clear, where you can see all these items. And even the Golf and Country Club, I think would be, would like to talk to Paul and see where we can go ahead and use certain places in the Golf and Country Club where we can also showcase these items, whatever it is that can be showcased.
May I answer that?
Hold on, Lily.
So I
if
know
you-
that you guys go in and out, so you guys change out the information or not the information, the inventory that's inside of the museum and switch it out and go to the storage and come back and so forth. That's why I mentioned an accessible storage and showcasing where you guys can go and go ahead and change out your
I like your idea.
yours.
And I don't know if you know that, but we have those two planes belong to the historical society. The ones that are on the lobby here in the city hall, those belong to the historical society. I like your idea.
Or even here. Mhm.
It makes sense. The only issue we have is we don't have the manpower to do stuff like that.
Well,
That's the
I'm
problem
sure
we have right now, manpower.
I mean, we're spending $12,000.
Oh, it's 6,000.
But yeah, to be clear, I'm
It's six.
sorry, through the chair, it's $7,500 in climate controlled
Storage. Yeah,
storage.
it's not 12.
The 12,000 is a.
Includes the
to-
fence and includes the
Right.
storage container. with the
Right,
building.
it includes, the 12,000
Just-
includes
just-
everything.
Yeah, just climate control storage is $7,500.
And I think the councilman can speak to this. I mean, it's a museum, so they need to archive
Yeah.
artifacts and like it has to be climate controlled. I mean, and like also, if you're gonna run a museum, you're gonna need to have some storage. But I just wanted to just make that as a point of clarification for anybody listening online, or it's not 12,000 that that they have in storage, it's 7,500.
I want to make sure that everyone knows that we're doing
Go ahead and read.
everything
Have something
that
for us.
that I can do, because I really don't want to be here next year if I don't have to, because I sat there and I know how it feels when people come up here and ask
Mhm.
for funds.
And I
Because-
think that's something we need to keep in mind when we're, asking councilman, president, councilman, I don't know.
Right.
Which one.
So
These questions is, you're a volunteer and everyone at the Historical Society is a volunteer.
volunteer.
So whatever even we ask of them right now, they're volunteers.
Mhm.
They may be here next year. They may decide they're, have other interest or whatever. So it's not
All folks
the
do.
same as, and we have to keep that in mind. And again, I want to stress from the beginning, because we're asking you a lot of questions. I think all of us, I know I do, and I think everyone on this council, very, very much appreciates the work that the Historical Society does for Miami Springs. I've said it before, you're our memory keepers, you're our historians. We don't have paid historians. You're the ones that do this for us. I know for years you were storing things in your personal garages and in different,
Yeah.
just out of the goodness of your heart, preserving the history of our, we call ourselves, we're very proud of our historical city, and we're going to be celebrating our 100th anniversary soon. I mean, it's amazing and
A lot of history.
a lot of history, and really it's the Historical Society that holds that history for us out of just being volunteers and caring for our community and wanting to do that. So I think it's really important for us to keep that in mind. This isn't, employees that we have that we
Sure.
can say, there's so much that you and your volunteers can do, and you're asking the city for help. And I think it's important for us to continually keep that in mind.
Thank you, Mayor. Real quick, I know you have a long night tonight, but I want to make sure that everyone knows that we're doing everything we can to fundraise. Right now, we're very excited. Let me pass this. We have Dr. Montoya coming. The flyer has not been finalized,
Thank you.
but this is big.
Sure.
For the whole community, for the society.
Jamie, I know since you've taken over, I know you've spearheaded a lot of fundraising. What approximately how much have you fundraised to date since you took over? Because I know that you were selling barbecue chicken that I know you've been hustling. What have you fundraised to date?
You think maybe about $5,000, somewhere around that area.
That's great.
So
Exact number, but he has been very active.
Yes,
And
yes.
Unfortunately, the barbecue tax gets paid, but.
Yeah.
But the effort was still there on Highness Park.
Right.
And, I called them and kind of our call got disconnected. But, the efforts have been amazing.
Yeah, I want to make sure you folks know that we're not here begging for, asking for money, we're sitting around not doing anything. We're all.
No, I know, we know your
volunteers,
hustle.
money, get off the city budget because that's just, I've been there. I know how it is. Now, this Montoya, we might need your help. Look at the bottom of it. These are logos. This is not finalized. If you have anyone that wants to place the logo there, if they can contact us, because we have until probably Thursday of this week to finalize it because we had to start advertising it. It's going to be held in Councilman's or Principal Fahed School. Then the plan is to cross the street and do coffee and donuts. And Bob, we'll take care of you too. For so that's the plan. So if you know any company that wants to advertise, please, we have until Thursday, and then we're going to start advertising it. We've had T-shirt sales. The 4th of July, the Girl Scouts came big for us. They sold some flags. They helped us raise money. We have 2 car shows lined up, one for October and one for January. One is going to be with some folks from VG, the residents, and they bring Volkswagens. And we're going to do it in that area, fundraiser. Then with the January one is going to be with Jumping Jack. That one's going to be a little bigger. We're going to have to get together and discuss that one. Fundraising, Ken has done an awesome job. How much did we raise the other day? Like $800? And one day we raised $800. So Facebook is active too. We're raising money. The concession stands, we hope to have it soon. I know that they're working with the contract, and so hopefully, I think it's on the next agenda.
I'll get with,
Okay.
our city attorney on that.
Rizzo's visit was awesome. You remember, we got a check in one of our travels. So we fundraised that day too. And then the whole thing is to hire a part-timer. If I can keep the museum, if we can keep the museum open 34 hours a week, then we can get money, we can get grants. And then we don't have to come up here and ask you for money, but we have to have it open for a whole year, 34 hours. That's why I'm fundraising so much so I can hire a part-timer so we can keep it open. Now, the other thing is that I'm working on getting the governor to come out to the museum and also the the Commissioner of Education, Manny Diaz, to come out. If this comes across the governor's desk, it's going to be harder for him to veto our request if he's been here. So that's what that's my goal to bring him over. And I'm working hard to make that happen. Because I know if we can get him here, he will not veto our request for grants. So that's basically what I have.
Through the chair.
Yes, sir.
First of all, congratulations on this. I know
I
Dr.
know he
Montoya.
knows you.
I know Dr. Montoya well.
Yes.
He hired me
He did.
and
Taught me.
he is an excellent scholar. This topic he's going to be talking about, I collaborated with them on the 50th anniversary of this. You're in for a treat with Dr. Montoya, and I will definitely be there
Thank you.
to say hello. He's an incredible human being as well.
He's
Have
my favorite
you-
teacher. When he was just a teacher, excuse me, Mayor. When he was just a teacher, and I started North Campus, he taught me economics, 1 and 2, economic, micro, macro. I mean, I loved the guy back then. So
Incredible.
He was awesome.
Great guy.
The staffing that you need to have in order to, you said you need to have it open 32 hours, 34 hours a week for how long?
Grants for a whole year.
For a year in order to apply for grants. They don't have to be paid staff, or do they do? It
Well,
just has to be open.
we don't have volunteers, man.
No, but I was wondering,
It
like
doesn't have-
with Councilman Vasquez through a history department, if perhaps there could be volunteers through the university's history department for a semester. I guess it would have to be on a semester, but that they would get credit,
My plan is to have 1 paid staff there and then get volunteers to be with that, because it's a safety issue to have 1 person in the museum. So we need to have at least 2. So I'm thinking 1 full, part-timer, and then do what you suggest, bring volunteers so that person's not there by themselves. We have a lot of work. We have tons of boxes of things have been donated that we have to catalog.
Okay.
And we don't have the manpower to do that. So
Right.
that's.
And
why-
I wanted
You'll
to
have
say
have
something.
supervision, though.
Yes, and I wanted to say something, and I understand we're not the Smithsonian, so
Yeah.
it's very clear, yes. But I know my husband's grandfather had built an atomic clock. He worked for he was the director of the Naval Observatory when a long time ago. And he had built an atomic clock and it was in the Smithsonian. So when we went to the Smithsonian, we went to the Science Museum and, we wanted to see the clock, and they actually have a section of atomic clocks and you can go and you see them. And we kept looking and looking. We couldn't find his. So finally asked, and we were told that at any one time, the museum displays 1% of their collection.
Yeah.
It's impossible for
Yes.
them.
Right.
Most
Rotated.
museums have much more
Yeah.
than they display, and they display 1%. So his was one of, I don't know how many atomic clocks, and, it's stored away.
Right.
And that really was an eye opener to me, with museums that, you don't display all you have. So you need to have the capacity to store it and to store things in a way that, especially in South Florida, that are still being preserved for when you do want to
We want to
display them.
keep on, Lloyd told me that Seth is ready to come back. So as soon as he gets back, we want to change that exhibit. So that's one of the things we need to do right away. I'd like to leave you folks with one thing. Consider our request for the fence. We need the
Yeah.
fence and for the storage.
Mayor,
The container is so far down the road that I know
Right.
the constraints of the budget. So if you can keep us in mind for those two items.
Mayor, if I could just to summarize where I'm at on it. But first a question, what I'm looking at the fence quote. The footprint in this quote of the building, does that include the pad in the back or no? The concrete slab that includes the pad?
Yes.
Okay, so it's extending 34 feet beyond the edge of the pad behind the building.
No, it's
No.
from the back of the building.
From the back of the building, so it doesn't include the,
Pad- the
right,
pad is
the,
not shown here.
the footprint
It's in the
doesn't
back of the
include that.
building.
All right, so I think to me, the storage cost is something that you have to, that's a recurring cost that you've got. And I know that things only go up and they don't go down. What my suggestion is that you focus on a fence option that you think is because I think you said that, you think that there's cheaper options. Or at least getting other quotes and then bringing that to the council, because I think the mayor said it best. I think that if you can cordon off an area and you can turn that, you could put one of those shades that you hang, like you could make that an area where you could have people back there, or you could even put a little more concrete and there's things you can do back there. Just think about what they do at the mansion. They have pavers, they have things, they have a lot of outdoor area. I think that that's your best bet. And I feel like if you came back with something more concrete in terms of this is the plan of what we want, at least I see the need for the fence. And I think that that's the right way to go in terms of cordoning off an area that you could use as an area for sitting people down to learn about the museum. And I feel like if you had something that was more concrete, like this is what we've decided, and because they're hustling. I've never seen the Historical Society. We love what you do because you guys preserve our history. But I know that since Jamie's been in charge of it, they've been hustling, more active, more involved, and I'm 100% behind you. I would want to see something more concrete in terms of this is the fence we're going with. This is what it's going to cost. We're fundraising. Help us out. This, and then, I think that and the climate controlled storage can be something that I think that we might all get behind.
Okay.
And
we
if I may,
have-
Mayor, maybe an option, Jaime, is look at the overall size, and since you're not doing the trailer for now, that's a long-term issue. Maybe you can reduce the size of this fence and lower your cost.
Or maybe just get Ulysses gave me a number. This is Highland Fence. Ulysses gave me a number of someone that's more reasonable. So that's the route I'm taking. Maybe the same size, square footage, but a lot less money. That would work also.
Also, you're only going to get one shot to once you do this fence, that's your area, right? So I would kind of look ahead and give yourself an area that's where you could grow into, and you could always put trees later and make it nice. And that could be an area that you could grow into, rather than trying to bring a classroom
Right.
and plant it in there.
And,
It's the minimum size without really infringing on anybody's path.
Right, right.
I mean, try to meet with Omar out there, so Omar can look at the layout, how far back he's going and all that. Because I want to make sure he's okay, that it doesn't affect the playground or any of his areas over there.
Absolutely. I'll agree with him
Okay.
today.
To the chair.
Yes.
Thank you. I don't mean to be a stickler about the storage. On the climate control, would you say that the majority of the items in that storage needs climate control?
Yes, why don't, what?
I don't
what-
know about these things.
When
so
is a
I'm
good time
asking
for you to visit you want to come with us? We can take it so you can look at it.
Yes,
Absolutely.
next week. Let's plan, let's coordinate for next week in the morning.
Next week, absolutely. We'll
Because I
take
just-
you, but everything, I thought the same thing. Why don't we can just get a regular container, put it out there and just put the stuff in there, but
No.
it has to be climate control. If
Not
not,
gonna
it
have
gets
it very,
damaged.
you won't have it
Chair,
long in this heat.
Just to answer that, 99.9% of anything that's stored has to be climate.
Has to
controlled.
be,
Anyway.
I wouldn't have
unfortunately,
known. I'm not a
unfortunately, and
historian.
it's packed.
Yeah.
As you're gonna see, they're pretty much packed.
But
We
I think,
try-
to
I'm
Councilwoman Bravo's point, what she suggested is perhaps there are some items that can be to beautify areas and, here at City Hall, like with those planes, which are
Oh,
just
that's a great
stunning.
idea.
If some items can be displayed on a regular basis or at least a rotating basis in City Hall, even in the
At the
rec
mansion,
center.
like you said.
Everywhere, all
Um,
of our
The
spots.
mansion, I know they have their own, so that's
Somebody
different,
brought it
but
up, that's why.
yes, but just, I'm thinking City Hall facilities, the aquatic center, to me, those walls in the aquatic center, they stare at you blank.
No,
you
I
know?
love, Mayor, I love the
So-
idea. The only issue I see with that is the manpower. We don't have people to.
And
Well,
physically
perhaps,
actually do it.
no, and I would think maybe not rotating on a regular basis, not, I don't mean a monthly basis, but that, like the planes that are here in the lobby that you brought up, I don't
Right.
think those are going to go anywhere, right? They're pretty,
We have- For now, we don't have no place to put it.
right. Yes, Lily, come on up.
come
Come
up,
up.
come up to the
Just,
microphone.
and that would be a few. By no means does that mean you wouldn't need the controlled storage. I think
Right.
We're all in agreement. We all realize that,
Right.
that you have to preserve that. Yes, but just a thought.
You don't really want to put any museum item under no climate control. Because anything can wither. You take newspaper copies, you take any paper copy and you leave it outside of air conditioning, watch in a year the color that it gets. So it all changes. As it is, we're having some issues with some of the older stuff. It's already yellow and they're in really bad shape. So that's just something food for thought because it really scares me to put it in a non-protected area. I think it would be foolish of us. We'll lose what we have. The other thing is, I kind of like the idea of putting a
I'm working on that. too.
tent on the back.
Not a tent.
I mean, I
shade.
don't know how you feel, but
Like a canopy, a
I
shade.
could see initially a canopy. We'd have to research the cost of that canopy. And regarding the fence, my little two-bit is this. There's a deep step from the deck to the grass. If a kid falls there, we're at risk and it's under our liability insurance. But they're also going to attack the city because they won't know the difference. And they think it's all the city and they may even sue the school board. My hope is that nobody falls from that deck. So that's just my little two bits on taking care of the deck and the
We-
fencing.
Why-
And that's it. If nobody has questions, I'll sit down.
on Wednesday,
Thank you,
I'm
Lynn.
meeting, Ulysses gave me a number to a canopy guy, so I'm meeting him on Wednesday. So I have a better idea of how much that's gonna cost, but we,
Also, the rec center has put up, that we put up like at PV Field and those different kinds of, at different places, I'm sure that the rec department can give you some,
direction.
Mhm.
I'm thinking those canopies, PV Field
Yeah.
and somewhere else, over the playgrounds at PV Field, we have a playground with a canopy over it, so.
We're
I'm
thinking like
sure-
one of those metal ones,
Could be, but it might be,
too
well,
expensive.
whatever.
Well, we'll see
you
the
look
quotes.
into it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm meeting with the lead that
would
Ulysses gave me
Give
Wednesday.
you a lot more living space in your.
Absolutely.
Cordon off an
And
area.
I'm thinking we can even close that someday, put blocks, put a, yes. Oye, una adición.
One bus stop too far there.
Yeah, I'm thinking outside the box. I want to make.
I
this
got you,
work.
I got you,
Say that
I
in front
got
of
you.
Ulysses, sir.
To the chair, one last
Trying to make
question.
this work, guys, and get off the city budget. That's all I can say.
Yes, Councilwoman.
Hi, man. I
Budgeted an
appreciate
extra
those
compliance
words
officer.
and like in all sincerity. My question to you as a new chair, because obviously I hadn't dealt with you last year, and now you're taking the spear. Do you have a projected goal where you would find the Historical Society somewhat self-sustainable at one point where you're not coming to the table for the $12,000? I know you're betting on the grants, but
That's it.
well,
And fundraising. And fundraising and getting all the, the state representatives, the senators and everyone behind
there's
us.
been fundraising going on for quite some time. I'm just concerned.
20 years.
Well, I think what
Yeah, but
I
not at this level.
what I
Sorry.
like.
Uh.
But for me personally, what I like is, Jaime, that you've got a plan for the grants. Grants are the way to go. There's just way too much. I can tell you, and I just got back from Councilman Best and I from the League of Cities Conference. There are grants available for
Right,
everything.
right.
And, it's somebody's going to get the grant. And these people that are administrating the grants, they want to give them away. I mean, that's what their job is to, so it's a matter of finding them and applying for it, so that you're saying that you need to staff the facility for a year, 30 hours or whatever, 34 hours a week for a
That's one of
year,
the
so that you
requirements.
can apply for a grant. I appreciate that, because I think, that your plan to, or the Historical Society's idea of seeking out these grants, and particularly one thing I'm hearing more often is the smaller you are, sometimes the easier it is to get the grants,
Right.
because there's a lot of foundations that are looking to help these, not something like, the Metropolitan Museum of Art, but these small museums and other cultural facilities. So I think that's a great plan, and I appreciate that on your part, on the part of the Historical Society.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Well, no, through the, I was just going to say, the mayor's correct. That's the obvious road you want to go to get funded for the things you have in mind. But remember, when you make the presentation, you got one shot.
Right.
Make it right.
I'll be prepared. That's it.
Any other questions?
No.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you so much.
Thanks, Jamie.
All right, let's move on to, Curtis Mansion, on page 2-9 of your packet. You have, a letter that Julie Arias, Julie is on Zoom. Richard Wheeler, is here. He will, address, and I know Lynn is here too, right? So, basically, we have $35,000 set aside for them in this year's budget. If you remember also, when we were allocating some of the ARPA funds, we allocated 40,000 for their irrigation system. But in this letter, they have an additional request for 100,000, which I'll let Mr. Wheeler give the details on it.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. And that's also the reason that I'm here. Besides the fact that I think Julie's watching by Zoom, but she'll be coming in. But we're also looking at a 10-year anniversary this year from the date that the Curtis Mansion received its certificate of occupancy and was able to open to the public. And those years early on were a struggle. I listened to Mr. Petrolanda, and I can, my heart goes out to him, because we battled through those times. The good thing about the mansion is we have a revenue source with the venue to be able to bring in money to pay a lot of the bills. The last 2-3 years, in spite of COVID, I would say we've been quite successful. We've got a good team, a good partnership with management, marketing, board of directors, the city, and it's come together quite well. So we're starting to look at those things that were deferred previously. We have there's a photo I'd like to throw up to start with. If you could just go to the overhead one. It's just a photo. Not that one. And we can look at where we started and then what we have and the things we're talking about, because since we're celebrating 10 years, that means the roof that's on the building is 12 years old, because that's when it was put on. So there are things that have to be accomplished. Then that's not it. That's not the one I want to lead in with. there are repairs needed to the air conditioning system as well as the standby generator that's there. So the good thing is with the dollars that we've been able to generate with our own revenue and with the city's participation, we can address those things in the coming year, coming 6 months, really. So there we go. Look close at that. There is no roof on that building. The walls are head up with stabilizers. And it's a complete wreck. And that's what was, that's after work had been done to the mansion from its original state of total collapse and debris and vagrants and arson and a lot of trash. So it's come a long way. But that's what we started with. If you would go now to the video. We'll show you what hundreds of man hours of volunteer time, hundreds of donations, not just the city, everybody throughout town, the Anchor Club, Leonard Real Estate, TGSV. I won't mention your company, Councilwoman, because that would be unfair, but
You could. It's
the
Twilight Productions that serves to SFG events
okay.
and like.
Mr. Best even dropped off Royal Poincianas at 1.7 or 8 years ago, and they're grown now to 25 feet tall and add very nicely to the landscaping and everything else that's there. And we've had donations from Durham, and it goes on and on and on. So it's really been a community effort. The grants that have come in, federal, state, local, county, it really has been a struggle to start with, and to sit here and look at it today. Go ahead and start that video if you could. And show you, here's the mansion as it exists now. It's being set up for an event in the expanded courtyard. Came through efforts by Councilman Petrolanda and at the time Public Works Director Tom Nash, with donations to make that happen. I guess we're going to take a little while to load. City Manager mentioned the irrigation system. In order to do that, we had put together the RFP, and then we had to go back out and update our survey for the property at our expense to go ahead and go out to bid to get the bid for the irrigation system. Whatever the city does not cover, because that's a fixed amount, that's coming out of CMI coffers so that we can get the basic system in, because the next step in the big number that you saw there is the next phase of what the Curtis Mansion is looking at. And that is completion of the historic renovation on the property. Front entrance drive and columns are deteriorated, falling down, falling apart. One is leaning so that we're extremely concerned about it. We have not yet completed the barbecue area. The pond itself that's there, we have to continue to treat that because there is no aeration or flow through the pond itself. There is a plan, and when I say there's a plan, don't ask me for the plan, because that request that we've made is for the design. All these things put together in one plan so that we can go out for the grants and start selecting those pieces of what's designed to complete. We've came a long way in 10 years, still got a substantial amount to go. Also included in that design will be an operations building. Storage seems to be the theme for this evening. Running productions or performances or anything else like this, it takes tables, chairs, equipment. And if we're going to end up with the Curtis Mansion and gardens, which is the intent, then we also are going to have to plan ahead for what's necessary to maintain those gardens. Returning the estate property to what Glenn Curtis had in many cases with the royal palms and hibiscus and other things, expanding beyond that to include where he used to collaborate with Dr. Fairchild to bring in specimens from other areas. So all of those things together are phase two, if you will. The design for that is what we're trying to get together with the city and say, number one, and Tammy will love it. Yes, we'd really appreciate assistance with the RFP or RFQ to be able to put that together. I think she's experienced because of the aquatic center and what she did with that part of it. And then number two, assist on the design costs. And I say assists because if you looked at everything together, we're probably talking about $2 million worth of additional improvements on the property. Design cost for something like that, 100,000, 150,000 could be slightly more. I don't, that's kind of a fluid number, but the point is it's time to get on with the project. We, I think, have shown that there is a level of success here. We've spread our network out. We've marketed. Emilio Esteban did a production there this year, and Christina Aguilera did a video. If you haven't seen it, go ahead and call it up. Now, those two things don't make it successful, but the fact that our network and our, just the knowledge of the Curtis Mansion has spread so far that we're starting to get things like that in is important. So we're very proud of that whole element. I'll keep going, not much longer, and hopefully we'll get better laptops in the future. Yes, we are continuing to ask for $35,000 for the year in operational support. And Mr. Best, I had your name down here and I said, Mr. Best is going to ask, when do you think you're going to get beyond that? And I'm going to tell you about three things. One is, if your priority is to cut 35,000 from the budget and just, you could do that and CMI will survive. On these things where we come in and can do the irrigation and the tree trimming and put some pavers down and repair the roof. Now we're back 10 years to where we're going hand to mouth. So sure, it could happen. I would hate to see it happen for a couple of reasons. One is when you apply for these grants, most of them want to know that the city's behind you.
That's right.
And that's how you show that you're behind the project, is by that funding. It is a community property. It's a $4 million estate on 4.5 acres of city property. And it's successful from your economic development standpoint, because during our wedding season, week in and week out, we're bringing in hundreds of guests into the city of Miami Springs. They go to the hotels, the gas stations, the restaurants, the grocery store, and everything else. So when you talk about economic development, you're talking about getting other people to come into town and spend money. And that's what we are allowing them to do with those weddings and those other events that we host there. We look down the road. It took a lot of planning. I brought my mansion mug with me. August 24th, 1998. I was sitting right there. And I asked the community, I asked members, volunteers to step forward and take this project on. And they did. And there have been literally hundreds that have focused on the mansion, on the board of directors. Joellen Morgan took this from that standpoint to the opening, and then about 4 years beyond. Gave her heart and soul, probably gave up her job for to get it done. But look what we've got. You talk about 36th Street, and there we've had a few conversations about what's over on 36th Street. I think when you look at this, it's starting to work a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
We're at the corner of the golf course, beautiful estate, nice pond. we could take it up one more level with what we're suggesting for phase two. And maybe that's our protection, our buttress, our wall against 36th Street. But it's something that I think we can all be proud of. So in our wish list, we did add the additional dollars for the design work. If any of you would like to talk individually about that, I'd be happy to wander the mansion grounds, walk through it, and point that out. And as far as Mr. Petrolanda and, cooperation with the Historical Society, I think we've come a long way in the last year with that. Ken Wild, he serves on both, so he's, he provides information back and forth, not secrets, information. And if there's things that we can do cooperatively, be happy to do them. And I think we've done a few things already. You just got to remember there's different priorities for different organizations, and there's different formats. We have the ability to run the weddings and the meetings and the events and earn dollars, and we've got to protect that ability. That investment we made underneath the groves with the pavers this year was specifically to protect the revenue that could come in from the outside weddings. We had no choice. It was either a pile of mud or pavers. So we protected it, we spent the money, and we got it done. So.
Through the chair. Mayor, do you see a day when there could potentially be a merger with the Historical Society and CMI? I asked that question of your director last year. She said she'd work on it. I said, I'll get back to me in a year. She's not here tonight.
I would, and I've had conversations with our director about that. I'd say two things. One is I never say never on anything, but understand that the priorities, the format, the people involved, the direction, what they're trying to accomplish are different. So to say, well, you guys become the same organization, quite frankly, I think I don't say you think you dilute, but you certainly, you throw two elements in that are trying to accomplish two different things and say, do it. And so I don't know that, that would be on the, the near horizon.
The whole point of it is, though, correct me if I'm wrong, is both of you guys are dealing with the same thing, the history of Miami Springs. And yet we're talking earlier this evening about building an empire over on East Drive, subsidizing it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Whereas there could be a merge, and I'd rather see the money spent on city property than on school board property.
Mhm.
That's just my take on it.
I'll throw something out, and I will tell you that, this is not from the board of directors of CMI.
Correct.
It's for me. One of the elements that we're looking for is an operations building on site at the Curtis Mansion,
You mentioned.
which would also be for storage, not offices, but we have, again, maintenance and storage and things like that. Could we look at something like that and say, well, maybe go this big and make it work? That's part of that design process.
I mean, kill the cost of what historical is spending on that activity and just merge it. Keep it obviously segregated, but I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Right now, we're functioning.
The money we would save on this, Mayor.
We're functioning out of a shed that Public Works donated to us 8 years ago.
I know that.
So we need something there. So again, cooperation and coordination is fine.
So the dialogue.
I would hate to look at it from the outside and say, well, put these two elements together. It'd be kind of like telling the Optimists and the Lions Club to, to get together.
No, I don't know if I'd go that far.
Groaning.
Yeah, well, hold it. No. That's two different activities. You guys are history, right?
See?
Through the chair.
All right.
Sir.
I see what you're saying, Mr. Chairman. I think that, I gotta go back. I'm gonna take you up on it and go walk over there again.
Mhm.
Walk the grounds because from sitting here right now, I can't visualize how much space there is for the possibility of creating what I would in my academic world would call a campus, right?
Mhm.
So it's, you got the Curtis Mansion and that's the Curtis Mansion and that's maybe another possibility of a construction of something that could be the museum as part of that campus. That's, you can always think about things like that. And
We're-
I think maybe, and that's the kind of thing that you're thinking about, that
Well, we're talking about
there is enough-
drawing people to Miami Springs. The Curtis Mansion, the Curtis Gardens, whether if it's the Historical Society, if that would blend and be able to be effective, then, I think we should kick it around.
To the chair.
Yes, Pam, go ahead.
Thank you, Willie, for all of your explanation. My question to you is that you mentioned something about to be able to apply for grants and receive grants, you have to show that the city backs the Curtis Mansion.
Mhm.
Correct. So I think the city's been doing that since 1998. So there's no discrepancy there.
I would say the city's been doing it since 2006,
Okay. So enough. I want to
a
What-
lot with grant dollars, but yeah, there is
history.
support, continuing partnership that's gone on from the city
And-
to the mansion,
okay.
yes.
Because I'm just trying to, I'm not, because you said something earlier that we're trying to possibly eliminate $35,000. And I don't think that's the intention. I think what the issue here is that, I did a little bit of research because I don't like to talk without knowing, and I just want to really understand the big picture. CMI is a private entity, correct?
Correct. We're a nonprofit corporation.
Okay, so I know that the city does not do has nothing to do with CMI in respects to its outcome of operations or revenues or anything of that sort.
You mean as far as the management of?
Right, there's no profit sharing there. There's nothing going on there. They're completely separate. So my concern is that we have a lot of different entities in the city that would definitely like to take advantage, maybe not to the caliber that CMI is, because obviously it's a different ballgame, just like the museum is very different from Curtis Mansion and so on. I just want to make sure that we can sustain this. And I looked at one of the agreements that you had in place. There's a couple of agreements that CMI has with the city and it talks in detail about the maintenance of the property and all those, basic details. I guess my question is to you, because there's a lot of things that need to be done. It's very important. I mean, it needs to be done. I just don't know if there's a process where potential property inspections have been done, or just to make sure that we're maintaining the property as we need to, so that we could go ahead and maintain those items if we needed to. Because ultimately on the agreement, the city doesn't have to help, but if we can help mediate the big cost at the end of the day, I don't know what, as far as and I don't want to get into your business because it's none of our business. It's just what the agreement says. As far as building maintenance, it said that CMI shall assume complete responsibility of the building. So I don't know if they're in your balance sheet or your accounting where there's funds being set aside for like big maintenance repairs or replacements such as these.
If you're asking if we
Like a general fund that you
We-
guys have
we-
for major,
maintain a reserve
a reserve, correct?
for unanticipated problems. We had an issue, I don't know, about 4 years ago where the stucco was cracking and then it was leaking in, and we had to go back in and repair all that and repaint the entire mansion, even after the original. That was tough, and we had some private donations that came in to help make that happen. But since that time, we've been putting a small percentage aside as a reserve in case things like that happen. I don't consider the roof system treatment to fall into that category, because that the roof needs to be painted or needs to be sealed in every 5 years or every 10 years. So you can anticipate that, and you can anticipate some air conditioning things, but you can't anticipate things like a generator ending its life. So or issues with the exterior that could cause severe damage, and we got to move quickly. So yes, from that standpoint, the building is in as good a shape or better than it was 10 years ago, with some very specific things due to age of the building that we look at as being normal repairs and maintenance that we'll take care of this year. The city, as far as I know, doesn't do any follow-up, although Public Works is quite familiar with the mansion and the grounds, certainly.
Through the chair, one last thing. I know we're not making any decisions right now, but should we make a decision? I think it's really important that, I don't know to what caliber we can maintain or where we can kind of avoid getting into this lump sum request, because I know that there's other people looking right now. I mean, you've sat in these chairs before, and they're like, well, if they're willing to help out this private entity, then why can't they help? And it's just so hard. And it's just, I'm juggling all these things. I want to continue to support CMI, but I just want to make sure that you're giving this beautiful property to bring people to the city, and also to ultimately, it's not for profit, but there has to be money and cash flow to work to be able to maintain this property. I think it's an advantage that CMI has that opportunity, and I want to see you excel and continue. I just I want to make sure that we're thriving enough where we don't have to go past the 35,000 and uphold the 3 agreements that are in place. That is it.
And I would see this, well, number one, the 35,000 has been 10 years. It's been a lot of fun addressing council in those in those years. I can't tell you that, there won't be something come along. I mean, you hear the plan of what we have, and we've got to add an irrigation system 10 years after our certificate of occupancy. Now, it's taken a long time to get there, and it's going to take a long time to accomplish what I just described with the new design. But quite frankly, I would say that anywhere along the way that CMI finds a need or an opening, or wants us to come to the city and request and say, hey, how about? I think it's, it falls back on the city to say, yes, the things that you said, it's our property, it's our mansion. It's a representation of the city of Miami Springs, and we want to make sure it's at the highest level it could possibly be, because that's what Miami Springs should be. So this year, I think you're looking at a 35,000, the irrigation dollars that CMI is adding to finish. Design work that opens the door to a lot of possibilities for grants and additional effort and additional donations. Am I going to stand here 5 years from now and say, hey, I think the city should do this? I hope it won't be me. But that mansion is an important element. And there's been a lot of battles fought over that mansion, from bulldoze it and get rid of it to buy it from the hotel that donated it to us. There's been a lot of battles, and at this point, I feel like we won all the battles, or we won the war, but there's still a few things to do, and I still think the city of Miami Springs plays a part in that.
Through the chair, do you see down the road future councils, clearly, I don't know, 5 years, 7 years, whatever down the road, that the Curtis Mansion could be viewed as a infrastructure project for the city, such as the city investing down the road? I know that's music to your ears, but is that a potentiality?
I don't know.
Since it's city property, I mean,
It's city property, so I'm sure that Mr. Alonso has got it all booked to follow the accounting rules as far as.
well, I'm sure he'd get it done right quick, but I mean,
But I'm gonna say I'm not sure, and I'm not sure where just what the benefit would be to that, other than unless you're looking at funding it.
that's exactly
As
what
an
that's exactly what I
infrastructure
just said.
And Some of it might be. It's city property and it needs an irrigation system. Is that infrastructure?
Does it fall into the category?
That would be, that would be the city manager, finance director's
That's one avenue. Yeah.
answer.
All right. Thanks, Rich.
Yeah, thank you. So a quick question on page 211, and William, maybe you can, so the city assistants, the 2022 estimated, that's 25,000, then there's a footnote that says 12,000. Is that 12,000 in addition to those 25,000 that are?
What happens is their fiscal year ends June 30th.
Got you.
It's not
Right.
profit. Ours ends in September. So what she's saying is that 25,000, they still have not received the July or August reimbursement. So once they do that, it'll be 37.
Yeah.
It's timing.
The
Mm.
12
why
added
you'll
to the
see
25
it'll be
is the
37.
number here, or right at. Yeah.
All right.
You'll see timing differences. And if you go back to.
We have that
year-
problem in both directions because the city starts October 1.
Right.
But if we receive funds from the city in July, it goes into our next year.
So in previous years, so in 2021, the city provided 30,000 and change, right? And then 34 the year before.
As of
prior to
June
that.
30th date. Their June 30th date.
Got you.
Yep.
Got you. Okay.
But it's never been more than 35. That's all we do since, I think it started in 2014, fiscal year 2014. It's been 35,000 ever since.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I appreciate the need for getting back to what we talked about, the historical society. I mean, there's an aspect of the Curtis Mansion that's part of preservation of our history, and I appreciate the work that's done. I don't have a problem with the ask because you don't lose anything by asking. I just think that the ask is kind of vague because I mean, I'm reading the letter about roof treatment and fumigation, AC unit update and replacing a generator and irrigation, but there's not a lot of detail in terms of like specifics about what costing that out, what it might cost
And that's
specifically.
because those items are not what the 35,000.
I know,
is
not the
intended to cover.
35,000, but the letter also talks about,
Right.
so an additional, so apart from the 35,000, there's 40,000 in assistance from the city for creating the design RFP and then an ask for
That's for the
100,000
Irrigation, 40,000 is for the irrigation.
is for the irrigation and the 100,000 for the garden design and
That's what they're requesting additional.
needed restoration. Right. Yeah, I think that there's not a lot of,
Those other items that you brought up are
Right.
items that CMI will be paying for and funding directly for itself over probably the next
Right.
6 months.
okay.
And that's
If
only
you look at page.
possible because
Look
of
at page
the
211.
results.
Right.
2021, they had, I think, the best year since they opened.
Yep.
Where they had a net of almost $128,000
Right.
that year. And if you look at page 211D, towards the bottom, if you look at line item 31, they have retained earnings, which is reserves of almost 173,000 at the end of that year.
Mhm.
They'll probably go up this year. Well, I don't know. According to their projections, they're projecting $65,000 profit this year. So that number is probably going to go up.
220, something.
In terms of their reserves.
Right.
Any other questions?
Well, yeah, so I mean, so again, my understanding is 35,000 is what traditionally has been the kind of continued operational support on behalf of the city. But then just, I don't want to gloss over the fact that Julie wrote us a letter asking for different assistance, but it just seems to me kind of unclear, like, where those numbers are coming from and
As far as which number for the design part of it? Or
yes,
For, on the design part of it,
100,000, right? That's what
Right.
it is.
right, the 100,000.
because we don't know what that's going to be. It depends on the RFP that would be developed, and that's I guess the partner request of that 100,000 is that the city work with CMI to develop that RFQ for the design, which would include all those elements that I talked about with the operations building, with the historic restoration of the front entrance, the barbecue area, the pond, all of that, as well as the garden area that would be added in. That's what that design would result in.
The
Yeah.
assistance with the RFP would result, so that's a separate budget request?
We're doing that. We're helping them.
You're already helping them with that. Okay, but the $40,000 assistance, you're helping them with the RFP for that.
40,000, we set that aside when we did the ARA or ARPA allocation. We set that aside for the irrigation system.
Got you,
That's totally different.
got you. So
That's
then what's
correct.
additional is the $100,000
Right. Yeah.
ask. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Through the chair,
Yes, go ahead.
just to clarify, on the $100,000, it's for a garden design?
Yes.
It's for the design of what we'll call phase two, which is the historical renovation of the restoration of the front entrance, the pond,
No,
the
I-
barbecue area.
I see that here. I just see in Julie's letter, there's a lot of bigger items, more important issues, I think, that should be taken care of with the 100,000. She mentioned here, the roof is due for treatment, termite fumigation, there's structural integrity, I guess, based on the termite situation. The AC system is ready for an update and the exterior walls must be patched and repainted. The generator also has to be replaced. So I think
Right.
I think
All of those things are in the CMI's budget
okay.
to take care of in the coming 6 months to a year. And the reason we have the ability to do that is because we've had 2 or 3 very good years.
Yeah.
And we now have the reserves
Mhm.
to go ahead and address those, where in the past we haven't been able to.
Any other questions?
So I'm just unclear about exactly what the 100,000 would be for. I mean, I know my understanding is that it says for garden design, which I guess is an expansion of the grounds and, the gardens, as well as known and needed restorations.
Right.
So,
Restoration of historic restoration of the front
Gotcha.
entrance, the barbecue area and the pond area.
I don't know if people realize, and I know you explained this to me not a while back, that the entrance to Curtis Mansion is not the original entrance.
Mhm.
It's actually further down. So that's part of
Yeah, there's old
uh,
columns
you know,
and a
that
wall.
kind of
Mhm.
grand entrance would be part of the restoration of the
Right.
gardens.
Right. That's been on the list for a long time, but there's just been no funding to complete the restoration of that area of the estate.
right.
along
Just
with
like the
gardens.
barbecue area and just like the ponds. There's just not the ability to do it until we get into this phase two. When you look at $100,000, that's design only.
Right.
Landscape architect, historic architect, a team to put all that together. So then we've got the plans where we can go forward for grant funding, not all in one hit, but on all those individual projects, it'll be included in the umbrella design.
Through the chair.
Yes.
Willie, do you know from the top of your head, I only see, because I only have 2020 in front of me, any government grants for the year of 2021 that you received?
What do you mean for,
Just grants in general for 2021.
Have
has-
you received any grants in the last couple of years?
any grants?
Yeah.
In 2021, there was funding. I'm not sure when the COVID funding came in.
30,000 for.
Right.
COVID thing.
There was COVID funding that came in.
But I guess what she's asking is, do you have anyone that solicits grants out there? Because I know,
I'm sorry, in my old age, my hearing is going, so.
do you have someone that solicits grants?
That falls under Julie's responsibility. It's tough because you have to write grants a specific way. So it's not like that's her expertise. So she's been working with a few folks to try to target the grants, but it's not one. And realize too, you say, and I didn't want to argue with it, grants are all over the place. I've heard that for a long time. They are. There's a whole lot of people looking for them. And number two, on construction grants especially, okay, you got the grant. You're now lined up for funding in the year 2028.
Yep.
And that's how we've worked through that at the mansion on a couple of them. So that's why I say this is a long-term event here. We need to get the design in place so we can get the grants in place, because these aren't going to happen overnight.
And,
It just
and
doesn't
one
work.
of the things, and because this is one of the topics that was discussed last week, and it was kind of new information because of, obviously we know grants are there, but the most important thing for grant is to apply for the ones that, are probably likely to look for to fund your type of operation because, and that's a really unique skill. And it takes reviewing their past history of who they give their grant money to so that, oh, this, we kind of fit that niche. But evidently, from the information that we got last year, and there's a city, a Florida League of Cities site called East, we'll have to get it for you, East Civics or something.
Civics, I think.
And they were saying that this is a new project that they've done where they help locate these kinds of grants. And find ones that are really well suited to make it worth your time to apply. It's like you said, it's very time consuming. And, unless you're really aiming for a grant that is likely to, you may not be chosen, but is likely to fund your project, it's not worth the trouble. And also that they provide the assistance with that, but they also provide some of the grant assistance. So I think perhaps that might be something, you being a nonprofit and part of our city, and it may be something.
She registered for the city
That-
today.
okay, great.
But I'm gonna send Julie the link so that she can register too and talk to the people. It's a city power.
Yes. To see that kind of,
Because the other thing they have going for them, the mansion is the historic site.
yes.
So there are a lot of historic grants.
Right. And also the smallness of it, which seems to be something right now that, is a lot of these foundations are, looking to help the smaller entities, that are unlikely to get the assistance.
Keep
Or
in mind too, a lot of the
big
grants that come
sponsors.
through Department of Transportation and things like that actually go to the city.
Right.
They're not funding a nonprofit because of the fact that it is city property and the way they work their accounting, it has to go through the city.
You're a 501c, right?
Yes.
Through the
Mayor?
chair, I'm
yes,
sorry.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Wheeler, what did you mean about FDOT coming to the city? The FDOT funds coming to the city? What do you, I don't understand that. Comment.
DOT funding coming.
I'll
to
give
us.
you an example. There was the parking lot was done by I think it's called a TAP
Tax credit transaction.
through federal DOT, which went to state DOT and was awarded, and Miami Springs got it for the parking lot at the Curtis Mansion. Okay, money didn't come to the Curtis Mansion. Curtis Mansion didn't pay out money and they got reimbursed. It had to flow through the city's finances. And that's why Mr. Alonso is so familiar with our facility and our books, because that's just the way it works. The invoices come in and they're handled through the city. Probably Tammy, but
You didn't hear that.
Any other questions? Mayor, I wanted to thank you, and I do this because I really don't think we thank enough, these people that are providing these services. You provide not just your service on this council, the many years that you served as councilman and as mayor. And then how many years with the Curtis Mansion? And Joellen Morgan too was a councilwoman, and then devoted years and years and years of service to again preserving
paid better
something.
when I was on council, though.
Pardon me?
It paid better when I was on.
Yeah, they did.
Paid better.
Inflation wise, they probably did. And again, it's like we call ourselves a historic city, but to be a historic city, it's not just enough to say, oh, yes, this is when we founded. We have to have something to show for it. And we're really lucky because a lot of cities don't have something to show for it. They could just say when they were incorporated, we have our historic golf course, our Curtis Mansion. These are,
Let me take over for you and tell you
Please.
that in the last 20 years, PV Field out next to the high school, Stafford Park, East Drive facility, the dog park, the golf course, the Curtis Mansion. And I could go on and on.
Oh, yeah.
And it's because city leaders and city officials invested and thought ahead and looked down the road and took care of those things. A lot of those things are taken for granted now. It's like Miami Springs is special. We're all good. We got bike paths everywhere. We got 20 years ago, all of those elements that I just mentioned were not in place. Okay, they happened because of action on your part and other city leaders' parts and a heck of a lot of volunteers.
A lot of
And that's why
volunteers.
when you look at these things, if it's a viable project, then I would say that, you stand behind it, but you got to, use the long-term perspective.
And a lot of things, it's getting them off the ground, like the Curtis Mansion, which is still pretty much of a miracle if you saw it,
is.
the way it was.
It was a miracle.
That was something that the city council, that the Curtis Mansion group, the CMI group, everything had that vision and continued on that path despite numerous setbacks. And, it's something, and a lot of the things that we decide here, this is to me a stewardship of, we've gotten this far. We have a beautiful Curtis Mansion facility, which is a historic mansion, historic site in our city. Do we let it go, or do we do what we can to make it, to keep it up? So I'm just saying that because these are difficult decisions. The 35,000 that we've always provided, I think that's, something that we've all, and, agree that we need to keep providing that. What you're asking for, the extra 145,000, that's very difficult. That's something that we'll
understand
have to
I understand that.
give. And that is, I want to be clear, the 40,000 is for the RFP or
Let's,
and then
the
the
manager
other
can-
is not for the maintenance of the facility. It's for the grounds.
35,000 is a normal operational funding that we would appreciate that you approve. You have previously set aside out of funds that came into the city, $40,000 for the beginning of the irrigation system that will be installed. And that's something where CMI is going out with its own RFP and spending the money, and then we'll get reimbursed up to that 40,000 after we do the irrigation system. Those things, so that's already in place and flowing. What we're requesting is $100,000 for the design work on phase 2, which is the gardens and all of the historic restoration, from an RFP that the city would assist with developing. So all of that would really be working through the city. If we don't get through the RFP and get out and do that, then the funds don't come to CMI. They're just a matter of paying for that architect and engineering that needs to be done for that phase 2. Those dollars, I would guess, would never pass through our system. They would remain on the city side of the equation.
Mayor,
wanted to
I
ask
just
you-
wanted to point out to you that a lot of the grants, most of them cover design costs. The ones we received for all of our projects on the east side from FDOT and from the state, they'll pay for design costs. So I think the first thing we need to do is go out there and get a grant. And then we worry about
On the design.
yeah.
I would,
And the climate
if
for these things
I'll
comes
get,
and goes.
the
Right now, it's
North Fork
evidently. a
Poinciana
good climate.
project, the east side project that we're doing now, once we got the grant approved,
Mhm.
our engineers started the design process, which is what they're doing now. But the grant funds are already there.
I would
Yeah, that's the way to
say
go.
if
Yeah.
that's a path we can follow, absolutely.
Mayor, I wanted to ask you with the, I'm looking at this page 211. So under the revenue, rental revenue, I can see, and actually, that's doing well. But the all other income, what is all other income? Because I noticed like this last year, all other income is a big increase, which is wonderful, of 80,000. If you don't look at the year 2021's COVID relief grant that you got, it comes out to about the same, about 90,000 for that
90,000.
year.
Yep.
So what happened between, and 2020 is an anomaly because of COVID,
2019.
but say 2018 and 2019,
good ones.
that were in, 13,000, 28,000. What happened in 2021 and 2022 for other revenue? What is that?
There's, without giving away all our secrets, we have rental that comes from it. If you want to rent the Curtis Mansion for a day for a wedding, it's X amount of dollars. And that's that top number that you see with rental income. Below that, we have agreements, if you will, with vendors that provide services to wedding parties. No different than anything else in the, I guess, the retail or entertainment industry, that there's a commission that's paid back. And Mhm.
Your preferred vendor list.
Mhm.
there's preferred vendors, and if they're working, then yes, they provide some income. It also includes donations that we may solicit from everybody, sales of not just bricks, but we have room signs and some other things that have just started. So if you look at where we were in 2018, 2019, I guess we became a little better business people
Mhm.
on how we could increase our revenues. And
Mayor,
that's-
if you look at page 211B of the tax return,
Mhm.
that gives you an idea of all the, for example, you'll see line 1C fundraising events, 17,416.
Mhm.
Government grants contributions, 30,132. That's our city contribution.
Mhm.
Then you'll see all other contributions, gifts, grants of 79,139.
Mhm.
That totals 126,687. Then if you look at 6A, it shows you what their actual gross rental revenue was of 259,
Mhm.
less rental expenses of 175. So they actually netted 83,104 from
Mhm.
events. Then you look further down under 8A,
Mhm.
it has gross income from fundraising events, 17,416, which is the number we said on top. And then miscellaneous revenues, you'll see funds to repair damage, 1,421, administrative fees, 5,173, for a total of 6,594, and the total revenue is 233,806.
Mhm.
Keep in mind that we do, when you talk about fundraising, we have our normal annual Halloween event, which some years has been quite successful and some years marginally so. But we have that. Then we also do a Christmas thing, a cabaret evening, and there's a piano one going on currently. If anyone was interested in that, we just got through with the jazz nights. So there are performances and other things that bring in dollars.
That would fall under-
outside of the
Those events are all under their income. They're not rentals.
They're not rentals.
The
No,
rentals
they're
are,
CMI events for
Right, right.
fundraising.
well, that's
Other income.
great because they're comparable practically what you're bringing in and all other income.
Yeah.
At least this year and last year, to your rentals. Okay, anything else?
I have nothing there.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Rich.
everyone.
Thank
you.
you
I appreciate
for
it.
a lot,
preserving,
buddy.
for taking good care of our beautiful Curtis Mansion that belongs to all of us.
Yeah, the final thing we have on the council's budget is Julie on?
Yes.
Is on page 2-13. It's the request from the River Cities Festival for this year. As you know, last year, we appropriated 28,000 for them due to the fact that we missed 1 year because of COVID. So this year in the budget, I included in the budget the regular $14,000 that we give them every year. But their request is to increase it to 20,000. So Lynn, I guess, is here to
I'm here. Hi,
Hi, Lenny.
how's everybody today?
Hi,
Thank you.
Lynn.
I think Julie is on. Is she still on Zoom?
I am here. I don't know if you can hear me, but I am here.
I can hear you.
can hear you.
Okay. Hi, everyone.
Are you gonna talk or you want me to?
Sure, I'll go ahead and talk. So everyone, thank you so much. I appreciate your attention with the River Cities Festival. So essentially, we were able to host the festival last year, and it allowed me as an individual to really identify exactly the expenses that came with hosting that event. And, you know, one of the larger expenses does come in with the public works and the police, you know, the police, which is absolutely necessary. Not just because it's required, but simply because it's absolutely necessary and detrimental to the, you know, to the festival. With that said, usually in the past, we've always had the $14,000 that has always been provided to the festival in order to cover those expenses. I would like to request that that be increased to $20,000. The total came out this past year to about $28,000 in those two alone, but the festival itself, in order to make it happen, cost a little bit over $90,000. All of which are funded currently by me. And so just having that 20 grand would be super, you know, helpful to, you know, to keep the festival going. Fortunately, the festival was able to, at the end, pay itself off, but, you know, bringing that kind of advance in order to make it happen is very difficult. And so that is the request. If we can please have that increase to 20 grand to specifically cover Public Works and the police department. And of course, it would be run the way it was this year, which basically the city kept the money and then it was basically reimbursed once I paid out those expenses.
Thank you, Julie. Any questions? Julie, was the festival profitable?
So yes, fortunately this year we were able to make a buffer and it was of $8,000, I believe was the total that we were able to go ahead and save after the expenses. We were able to buffer an $8,000 increase, which is great because in the past years I've, you know, it's always, unfortunately, it always had a deficit. So to have a positive number
And where does that go, that profit?
this year was wonderful.
You're a nonprofit. Pardon me?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that question?
Where does that profit go?
So right now it's in the bank account of the festival to go and help fund this upcoming year. So basically
Seed
I'm
money.
using it to, yes, correct. So basically what I'm doing is I'm creating a continual buffer so that, you know, the festival can start to, you know, easily pay itself off.
Make
Smart
make some
move.
More money for next year, make the community happy. It was great. It was a great festival.
I think everyone was happy to have it back
Yes.
after, everyone's been very happy to have everything back after 2
Yeah.
years.
I see on the note here, Mayor, Julie's got a request in her cover letter to request approval for the festival dates this coming year in 23 to be 14 to 16 of April. That's a month later than we had it this previous year. I like that March. It was cooler out there.
Correct. So the temperature of it was obviously, that was definitely beneficial. The reason, however, that we like to have it in that weekend is just because it happens to fall after the youth fair. So it allows us to go ahead and. reach out
That's your
to the
vendor
vendors.
issue, right?
The vendors,
Yeah.
exactly, correct. Definitely, I also prefer that March, those March dates. Obviously, the temperature is so much nicer. I think the weather is better. But just for the sake of the vendors, I do think it's beneficial to be able to reach out to those at the youth fair.
Gotcha.
Plus tax date that year is April 17th, so.
It goes the day late.
The following Monday, yeah,
Monday.
so-
Yeah.
We had
Honolulu.
Easter, also Easter.
It's Easter
Try
weekend?
not to do it,
Yeah.
on Easter weekend.
William, what have we funded? I know last year it was run as a nonprofit, but before that, when it was run as a profit, was it 14,000 every
Yes.
year that we were supplying
Yes.
Yes.
to the festival?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the conjecture was that they were losing money. They weren't making any money, in other words. But this is positive. The fact you can stand there and say that you made $8,100 this year. I mean, it's
Yes, I believe it was
managed.
less money years earlier. I think it was maybe 8,000 or 9,000, and then it got increased to 14,000.
Right.
Of course, with the police, you know, their rate went up to, you know, I think it's $50 an hour. So
we tried to make a stand again with them one year. I remember, and it didn't
Did
go
try-
very far.
I think I was successful. I think we got like them to do it for $40 an hour.
Oh
So
gosh, you did better than we did then. Yeah.
Through the chair,
Yes.
if I'm understanding correctly, so the 28,000 that was given last year was completely reimbursed to the city?
Correct. So, well, so the 28,000 that was used, it was used to pay off the public works and to pay off the police department.
But in the cover letter, it says that the total cost for police and public works is $23,983. So basically 24,000.
Oh,
Yeah,
And you
but
so we covered that, right? Like
we covered that plus an additional 4,000 up to whatever.
to
it
get
was,
to 28,000.
get to 28, correct.
But was the city reimbursed after once they've netted their $8,000?
No,
No.
no, that was the contribution. We
Oh.
decided to cover Public Works and
I
Police
remember.
Public
and then
Works
up
and
to
Police.
28,000.
Yeah.
Right.
Through the chair,
Yes.
I really like supporting my city events. I really do. We are, and I'm on board for contribution to get that kickstart. But at the end of the day, a lot of cities have either an event planner like Miami Springs River Cities Festival, it's in Julie, or their actual on-site city employee that will create these events for the city, and the city will ultimately profit 100% of those of the profit. To my understanding, I had reached out to a couple of cities and they said that they either have two of either options, but if there's an external company coming in that wants to do an event and come in and do something for a city, then they typically they give them their location and perhaps a contribution, but nothing to the caliber of covering a complete cost of public safety, or even to, I mean, they told me I was very generous, and I said, well, we are a small city, so we really want to try and help out. But ultimately, we benefit because we bring people to the city. It's something that we want to get our community together and do something. But at the end of the day, I'm trying to make this fair abroad because this could get really out of control. So I'm just trying to set our operational costs for the future. I don't know where I'm going to be, but I do know that we have a lot of we have private entities which we are supporting, which is fine because it's beneficial to the city. But I want to know, why is it that we're so different from other cities that don't have to pay out so much money, and then they have someone provide a great event for their community? They profit because they're supposed to, even though it's a nonprofit. I mean, you can profit from an event like this or any event. Why is it that we,
Sure,
If I
so-
may, Julie, can I?
I'm trying to learn a little bit about this business.
If I can speak also, if
Yes.
it's okay. We do, a lot of the people in Miami Springs do benefit from the festival. We we have the Optimist Club, the Lions Club, the Girl Scouts, the Boy Scouts, the Miami Springs Senior High School football team. Many organizations here, including the Women's Club, do profit from our festival, and we don't really get anything from them usually, generally speaking. Is that correct, Julie?
So yeah, so let me go ahead and interject. So yeah, absolutely. So that's a great question. And the truth of the matter is, Councilwoman Bravo, that you're absolutely right in the sense that any organization can come in and host an event. As a matter of fact, if you go back into history, there was, I believe, maybe about 5-6 years ago, a gentleman by the name of Mario Pai came in and he created the Miami Springs Art Festival, where he closed off 2 blocks down on Westward Drive. And he absolutely came in, he presented to the council, he hosted his event, it was not successful, and therefore just simply never came back. So the question is, yes, can someone come in and create an event on the city property if the city permits it? Absolutely. That's absolutely correct, and absolutely it can happen. And the city does not need to provide it. The city does not need to provide neither the property nor the funding for it. The question is, at that point, if the city wanted to take it on, then you're looking at, okay, does the city have, a budget of $90,000, $100,000 to put on a festival, in hopes, because it's not certain, in hopes that the city will recuperate that, that money. So what I am doing, or what, Tom did in the past, was actually take that burden on themselves in the sake of the city. Because let me not say in the sake of the city, in the sake of this festival. Because what does happen is, if the festival happens and there's a rain day and all of a sudden it's 100% loss, the person that's losing the money is the person hosting that event and not the city. So that in essence is why it is beneficial for the city, because you would need someone that would be willing to come in and host the event and really take in the burden of that festival and the cost of that festival for it to take place, unless the city wants to do that, which the city absolutely can. But you're looking at also having to look at those numbers as well. Now, in this case, a lot of our local non-for-profits definitely benefit, and any non-for-profit can benefit from this festival. right? We give them discounted rates. Like if they want to come in and do a booth, instead of, charging, X dollars to hold their tent, they get a discounted rate. Or in some cases, we don't charge them anything at all, so it's definitely a fundraising opportunity for all of the non-for-profits that are here. And it's so much so that I have been receiving emails for the past 2 months from all of them saying, when are the dates? We're trying to prepare, because this for them is one of their largest fundraising opportunities.
Through the chair.
And
Oh, go
most
ahead.
of us are all volunteers. We don't get paid to do this. It's a lot of work and, but we enjoy putting it on for the city, and we appreciate everything that you guys do for us and help us with on the festival. So thank you.
1 second, Lynn, we probably have other questions. Did you have another question,
I
Councilwoman?
just had one more question. I just wanted to see what was a plan to make it more profitable. You talk about a lot of non-for-profit and you're giving, locals an opportunity to come and showcase their work or perhaps even make some money. Are we expanding our possibilities of other entrepreneurs or businesses to come to the city and showcase their items and potentially make money? Therefore, you're more money in booths and stuff, because I just want to see if at one point the River Cities Festival will be self-sustainable. So like you said, if there's a rainy day and the event doesn't fulfill itself and the city has already invested $20,000 and then there's no River City. So
Right. So it's absolutely. And it has happened in the past. I want to say, I think it was maybe the year before COVID, I believe, where I think the Sunday was completely a rain out day. Right. So the opportunity of creating sponsorship opportunities for businesses to come in. Absolutely. All of that is wanted, in addition to, as well, like I said, grant money. Now, the grant that I'm going after requires a 3-year, it requires that the festival be open for 3 years. Now, although our festival by tradition has been, this year will actually be 50 years. I did ask one of our historians to correct that, will be 50 years. The non-for-profit that I currently have is only a year old. So that's what they're going to look at. So for example, the grant that could benefit would require me to have been open for 3 years and have a running budget of $150,000. So there's certain requirements that, that I need in order to get those grants. But yeah, like right this year, I'm looking at introducing a historical component where I want to go ahead and feature, the history of the festival, like, put up a tent and create like different areas where, people can see where it began versus where it is now, in hopes that I can go after possible, like smaller history, grants and so on and so forth. But grant money is never guaranteed. It's just something that's out there and you try to fish for. The main goal is to start getting sponsorships from larger companies that would want to be, exhibited and, maybe provide those dollars as well. But, that is just really the nature of this particular business when you're doing festivals. And of course, I did cut the budget from years before in regards to entertainment and so on. Lynn can tell you, Lynn is my director of entertainment. She knows, that, we cut down the budget significantly in order to, help, reserve money.
Yes, sir.
Mayor, I would, so getting to the point of the risk of it getting rained out, I think that's, obviously to me, I felt like that was the best part of doing it in March. I know that it may not work in terms of vendors, but I think that you're far less likely to have rainouts in March versus in April. But
Right.
I don't know if you're set on that. I think what does strike me is that, like, we celebrate the fact that they turned a profit of about $8,100, but they wouldn't have turned that profit if we didn't double the amount of contribution from the city. We gave them 28,000 instead of 14,000. So even if we increase it from 14 to 20 this year, they're still going to have to come out of pocket to pay for whatever public works and police will cost. And we gave them 4,000 above and beyond that. So to me, I feel like increasing, if we consider increasing to 20,000, Julie still has her work cut out for herself in terms of like growing this event. I know that she, there was a lot of things that were new. The layout was new. I know Julie would probably agree that she learned a lot from running this first event. And I know that she has plans for growing it. But I feel like if we give 14,000, like we're basically cutting obviously we doubled the contribution because we hadn't had the event for 2 years. But I think that if we go back to 14, like you're running the risk that they're going to lose. It's going to be a loss again. So I think that we should probably consider increasing from 14,000 and consider their ask of 20,000, because that will probably allow the event to grow a bit more to the point where it gets kind of reaches that sustainability, because right now, even at 20,000, they got the work cut out for them trying to turn a profit. Just my 2 cents worth.
Through the chair, to respond to Vice Mayor Fahet on that, it was mentioned a few moments ago when I spoke to Julie about the vendors and doing it in March versus what really drives this, is my understanding of it, is that the vendors are in place at the youth fair,
You're right.
right? And so that runs for what, a month-ish?
Yeah.
And right after the youth fair is over, they plan the River Cities Festival. So all the vendors just come A to B rather than have to go to Sarasota or Orlando. So it's convenient for them.
Mhm.
This was the juxtaposition on that this past River Cities, because the vendors would have had to come to this first
Mhm.
and then go to the youth fair.
Mm.
And not as many responded. That's why you probably didn't see the number of vendors out there this year that you normally,
Mm.
or last year that you normally would see, the last festival rather. So I think that affected, I think the 8,000 would have generated higher had that calculus worked, So.
Anything else? Through the chair.
Yes, ma'am.
I see a comment here on the letter. I just want to clarify because it says festival, an increase in funding to $20,000 a year from the original. So is this every year or just this year?
Every year.
Well, every year they make the request.
Every year we make a new request.
Right.
yes.
But
It's a
the
new
verbiage
request
is-
every year.
The verbiage is a year from, I just,
We'll hopefully turn a big profit. I mean, this is the
Instead
first
of
year
this
since
year.
I've been
uh-huh.
involved, which is about 12, 13 years, that we actually made a
Reasonable amount of
a
money.
good there, like when Connie Brandenburg, the last year she did it, we made about 22,000, which was given to charities and all that kind of stuff. So also this event has been a tradition, it's history. The community's always participated in. It's almost, I think it's 50 years this year since I was a little kid.
No, I
here
want the
coming here.
festival. Don't get. me
No,
wrong.
I understand 100%. And I have full confidence that we will make a profit this next year. And also that we will have a bigger event. And like you said, we're going to bring more people in. And I'm not really a weather person, but the last 12 years, we only really had one day where that Sunday where we closed down. There are other days we've had a little rain. We worked around it, but we've been pretty lucky in April. So I understand.
Knock on wood.
Knock on, yeah.
Knock on
You just
So,
jinxed it.
but
Jackie,
Anyway.
just to answer your question though, just for clarity, just so that you're clear on the question that you asked me, Jackie, because I think clarity is so important. The answer to your question is yes. So every year I do request a new amount depending on the event. If the 20 does get approved this year, I would very likely ask for 20,000 next year. So just to clarify that for you.
Yeah, if not, it would say 20,000 this year from
Correct.
the original.
So if I were to request more money next year, yes, it would very likely be the new number that was approved. Yes, just to
Thank you.
clarify that. Mhm.
And Mr. Vice Mayor, thank you for doing what you did with the Pledge of Allegiance. I appreciate it. Would you be willing to do it again?
Absolutely.
If Council Best is not available?
I could swing that. That's not a big ask.
Did a good job.
So I think the $8,000 that you made in profit, if that's seed money, I think that's totally reasonable for an event like this. I mean, I think it's necessary to have something. I can't imagine you don't have something available, and I think that's a reasonable amount. I would, how does this work, William? If the event does happen to have obviously, weather situations, can impact us at any time of the year, and March and April,
Sure.
can be like that. So say if what happened a few years ago where Sunday was a washout, the festival did really well Saturday, my understanding, and then Sunday was a washout. So in that case, there would be no police per se,
Correct.
right? Or minimal police. Public Works would be still having to clean up afterwards, but there
Afterwards.
wouldn't be. So
Yeah, the big
should-
savings will be police.
Okay, so should something like that happen, perhaps we can have some contingency that if we go up to 20,000, because we're anticipating, obviously costs have gone up, the salaries have gone up, that if we go like that, but there is something, a catastrophic event, or some other weather related event or something, then, we put in there something where we're not paying the full 20,000 because it wasn't necessary. It was, the 20,000 is supposed to be for police and fire,
Public works.
police and public works. That we're providing that. Does that seem reasonable?
Well,
Oh, even if
to
you-
add to that, on that Sunday, the police, you still have to maintain a certain amount of.
No, I
police
know,
presence,
obviously they'll have to be there near
crowd
the booths and all, but it's not the same.
there. So we waited a while to actually say we weren't gonna have the festival. There was a little miscommunication, I believe, between how many officers should have been there and some should have been cut loose.
Mhm.
So it did cost us a little bit more, but we should have
Something
we will with
adjustment for that. I
Lieutenant
think that's
Gurney
reasonable.
about, like, if we have something like that happen, we only need minimal staffing. We don't need maximum, and then that should retract from what I guess you're saying with the 20,000.
Because we're giving you, or if we decide, if we decide to give you the 20,000, it's, for the full 3-day festival. So if that, is it 3 days, Friday, Saturday,
Yep.
Sunday, right?
Yes.
So I don't know if we started Thursday, something start.
No.
Okay. It's for that. And if that's not what occurs, then it should be reduced. The other thing is I wanted to suggest is I got a lot of comments from some of the civic clubs that they were concerned about where they were placed. And I'm sure, that Julie and all of you are revisiting that hopefully you've reached out to everyone who participated to get their comments of what really worked, what didn't work. It was the first year that you were putting it, that I guess you're putting it on under as a nonprofit. But I'd like to suggest that please reach out to the participants, particularly the civic clubs, and make sure that get their feedback as to, I heard that they felt they could have made more profits if they had been located. And I don't know what the locations were or anything.
Yes. Well, that was
Just
a
hopefully you'll
more of
reach
a-
out.
I would say a little more trial. I think that was the Westward Drive.
It was.
But what we would like them to do is to come to one of our meetings. So we will reach out to them and definitely have them all come, and then they can give us feedback,
All right.
honestly. And we, remember the circle's a whole different ball game now. So with the medians and everything. So we are aware of that. We'll take care of that. Right,
Any other
Julie?
questions? Julie, you heard?
Yes, ma'am, absolutely. No, and we're definitely looking at those options. We're looking at different ways that we can set up even the children's worlds, because the new Curtis Parkway doesn't even allow for the big rides anymore. So we're trying to see how we can really recreate different areas and different, it's just very logistically, it's quite the puzzle. So we're just working on all of that and seeing how we can maybe move it back towards the backside, closer to the incoming bridge. All of those details, but trying to see where we can really relocate everything so that we have children's world like once upon a time it used to be, and just kind of try to make it as traditional again as possible. But we're still working out all those details. But absolutely, yes, definitely.
And
Can
this
I-
is again, something that, our community has for 50 years. It's something that everyone looks forward to. I know a lot of residents, past residents from Miami Springs, come back for that weekend just to meet up with friends. And I think the senior high is having their, I don't know what, reunion this year. So it's a great opportunity to kind of, reconnect for so many residents and former residents. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I was just going to add, so if we do the 20,000, we gave them 28,000 last year. They were able to turn a profit. They have that 8,000 as seed money, as you had mentioned. I feel that doing 20,000 kind of gives them that foothold to be able to continue to grow. And I know Julie said that she would request 20,000 next year. Doesn't mean that I'm going to anticipate, Julie, that you're going to do a great job and that you're going to grow it and make more of a profit. We may not, because remember, at the end of the day, we have a lot of people making an ask, right? So there's no guarantee that we would be willing to pay 20,000 next year. If you turn more of a profit, we can start to wean you off. I'm in favor of giving.
No, and just so that you're
Let-
aware, ideally on a business perspective for me as an individual, it would be good to not have to use the funds, right?
Of
Um,
course.
Because it does
Yeah, no,
allow.
I feel like we're all on your side. I just wanted to mention, since you had, for the sake of clarity, wanted to say that, sure, if you ask for 20,000, you're probably likely to ask for it next year. But I think that because you are starting this out and we're able to turn a profit, we gave 28,000, you made 8,000 in profit. So if we make that 20 now, you've got that seed money. And if you continue to grow this as we expect that you would, and we love the event, we might kind of wean back a little bit on this, on the part of the city to kind of take the training wheels off, because we know that you're going to take off. But at least from my part, I'm in favor of raising it to 20,000 for this coming year.
Absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate that. And I completely understand.
All right. Thank you, Lynn. Thank you, Julie.
Thank you.
So we have consensus on 20,000?
I'm good. I'm fine with that.
I think we're all good.
Okay,
We
let's move on.
don't-
Mayor,
no,
I'd
we
like
don't
to
have
move
a
up. I'd like to move up.
Public hearing. We don't have a public hearing, sorry.
I'd like to move up Parks and Recreation because I know Mr. Wakefield is here and
Yep.
Yes.
that would be section 14.
Yep.
Wait, where's my paper?
On page 14-3. You'll see that the total recreation budget for fiscal year 22-23 is 2,909,223,
Wait, which section?
which is
I don't know.
32,377 or 1.1% higher than the fiscal year 21-22 budget. The proposed administration budget, which we're going to do first, is 73,182 or 4% lower than fiscal year 21-22. Budget includes increases in the state's minimum wage to $11 per hour for all part-time staff, as well as the increase in health insurance costs and increase due to the 4% COLA for staff. For fiscal year 22-23, budget includes $40,000 in renovations to the office cabinetry and the multipurpose heat room, and $25,000 for a new work pickup truck. The Pelican Playhouse will receive a subsidy of, and says 31.6 there. It's actually 31.4 for fiscal year 22-23, same as provided in the current fiscal year. And if you would look at pages
14.
14-27, you'll see a letter there from
Mr. Wakefield.
from Nancy, and Ralph is here also. And they provided some of the background and some of the financials for all the work they've done this year. So they're requesting the same funds as last year, 31.4.
I think last year, though, we said it was a one-time, there was an extra, there was an addition to it last year for the Pelican Playhouse.
No, it was
Right.
increased to 26.4 plus $5,000 for the equipment.
That's
fund.
equipment when it's used, or if it's not used, it just kind of,
So that 31
Harbors.
includes the equipment use?
Yes,
Yep.
the 5,000 for the equipment.
Wait, I'm also, are we?
and through the chairs, Mr. Wakefield, I see here that you mentioned, or Nancy does anyway, in her letter, that there were no outlays for equipment this year. You're waiting for the fiscal.
We are waiting for the next physical turnover.
Right.
Rather than do it and then.
Gotcha.
We try and wait to use the money when we need to use the money and not just use the money.
Gotcha.
But if it's not used, it comes back to the city.
Correct.
Okay. So,
We didn't use it this last year.
We did not.
so then you wound up using 26,000 this past year. Good to know.
I'm in favor of the ditto for this year, for the Pelican Playhouse.
Any questions? Okay, I'll just say I love that that's a recreational opportunity that we provide, like I've said before, not everyone, can play basketball and football or volleyball, little league, and, having this for so many years, the work that you and Nancy and, all of your support group does for our community is just awesome. And you put on such good place. And believe it or not, honestly, I really do try to make each one. There's always something those weekends, but you hear so much about
All
them.
your daughters, that's
That's right.
Yes.
Sure. Great. She was,
Yes, and we
Yeah.
had the performance by Councilman Best last year after
Fine,
the
that's
Shakespeare.
I know I borrowed a prop the next city council meeting and wore it here.
Okay, so we're getting back 5,000 this year's budget. So
Correct.
this year, right now, the cost was 26.
Correct.
6.4.
And then what you're asking is for next year, the same,
Correct.
which with the 5,000 for it.
Correct.
Are there any questions? Can we go ahead and give consensus now?
Consensus.
I'm in favor.
We do have our summer recital coming up on the 27th and the 28th of this month that you are all cordially invited to. It is our summer where we open it up at Actors Workshop and the players get to do what they want to do. So we have a whole cornucopia of television shows and songs and dances, and it's just a huge amount of fun. And one of the hallmarks of the Playhouse is that we fold our parents in with their kids on stage, and it's just priceless. And I encourage you all to come out. You won't get to see Bob die
Oh, no.
this time, which was a real treat. He's the best dyer, let me tell you. But
And when is
yes,
this? When is
we-
this, Ralph?
excuse me,
When is this? The-
27th and the 28th of this coming month. In 2 weeks. Oh my gosh. Yes.
You'll be
We're
ready. You
nearly
always
ready.
are. You're always ready.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. Thank you so very much.
Thank you again for this wonderful
ma'am.
opportunity you provide to not just the kids, it's the adults, so many
Oh,
adults
yeah,
and everything.
absolutely.
and
It's
all
everybody.
ages, yeah.
That's the neat part. Of
And
it.
the entertainment to those of us that watch it.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you, Nancy.
Mr. Wakefield, Nancy, Sam, thanks so much, you guys.
Thank you.
Are there any
Thank you, William.
questions on the administrative budget, which is on 14.4, 14.5?
I do. I have a question. How are we getting a work pickup truck for 25,000?
How?
Yeah, I mean, isn't it like that you can't get anything right now and
Well, we
everything's
just-
like
we just-
100,000
How long did
million
it
to
take
get
to
a.
get the one?
Yeah.
Yeah. We're waiting, building and code are waiting for a truck that we've ordered,
A
8 or 9
while
months ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's because we're not paying 80,000
Yeah.
for it. It would be delivered right away.
I guess they signed on the dotted line at the right time, huh?
Okay, so you're still waiting for the vehicles? Is this?
Yep.
Maybe September.
Maybe.
Okay, at least we have it in the path, on
Yeah.
it's coming down the road. But you've gotten a quote that you can get it for that?
Contract.
Oh, okay, through those contracts. Yes, the sheriff's. Okay.
Piggyback
Yeah,
off
They
that.
did great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, moving on, page here. Page 14-11 is the pool budget. The proposed pool budget is 71,531, or 11.7% higher than fiscal year 21-22. Increase is due to the increase in the state's minimum wage to $11 per hour for all part-time staff, as well as increases in health insurance and the 4% COLA. Additionally, the budget includes $30,000 to renovate the pool deck. And that budget is on 14-12. Do you have any specific questions?
William, the health insurance hike this year is 9%. Is that I read?
Yes.
That's for all departments, obviously, right? It's the
Everyone.
same. So is that a deal? I mean, you looked at it. It's about the best. I know years back we went after it again and we came back with like 4 or 5% lower.
Yeah, well, we've been working on this. I mean, the original quote came back almost 18%.
I remember one year.
These double digits.
Yeah.
And it has to do not only with the market, But with our loss history also, we've had some significant medical bills.
Was
Uh,
that to do with COVID? Is that included? in
No,
it?
no, not necessarily. But that was, our benefits consultant worked with the carrier and they were able to get it down to 9%.
So you think we're okay with that then?
Yeah.
Good. Okay. Thank you, sir.
It's gonna come before
Yeah,
council.
the next meeting, we'll have the renewal for you. Okay, no questions on tennis on 14-17. Proposed budget is 47,400 or 11.8% higher than fiscal year 21-22. That's wrong.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
It's actually 5,000.
Yeah.
Higher. It's 47.4 compared to 42.4 this year. Budget includes 25,000 for resurfacing of the 2 tennis courts.
Yep.
And the $5,000 increase is due to the tennis court resurfacing going up.
Inflation.
What page are we on, William? I lost you.
14-17.
Oh, 17. I'm on
14-17, the tennis.
Yes.
Is this a time to discuss what I had put on there for the,
Where it says proposed tennis budget is 47.4, that it should actually be $5,000 higher
47.9?
than 21-22.
Sorry,
And-
William, could you
So it's
repeat that again?
53.4?
Could you repeat that again? 5,000
On
there.
page 14-17, it says proposed tennis budget is instead of 47,400, it's actually 5,000
Oh, 5,000.
higher than 21-22. And you'll see it on page 14-18 that
It's 5,000.
Yeah.
then the last part of the budget is parks maintenance on page 14-20. The proposed budget is 29,000 or 7.6% higher than 21-22. Budget also includes $25,000 for laser grading Peavy and Stafford Parks. And that budget is on page 14-21. And that's it for Parks and Rec. I know
Did you want to bring up the thing about for the tennis courts that I had,
Tiki Hut.
oh,
the
the
cheek?
wish list. We can do the wish list.
You don't want to do it by department as we go along?
Yeah, if you want.
Up to the mayor, whatever you want to do, Maria.
What would you
There's,
prefer, Councilman? I'm good.
I just don't get it out of the way. I mean, as we go along, I had put in a request. I had spoken to William on this.
Yeah, on the wish list on page 1-4,
1-4.
1-4. These are things that we're gonna be considering once we everything down and start working on the millage. You'll see on the recreation, there are a few items there that are on his wish list, and they're prioritized for you along with the cost. On the council requests, for example, the mayor had requested purchase equipment to give us the ability to hold movie nights
Mhm.
during the year at various locations throughout the city. We put $2,000 down, but basically from what Omar is telling me, we have the equipment already. The hard part is the movies. But he told me something interesting on you have to pay copyrights
Right.
on like music and all that,
Right.
but if we have a movie night, and we don't charge,
Then
you don't have, we
that's
don't have to
waived.
pay.
Yeah,
That's
right.
it's when we have like rec out, camp rec out,
And you
and show where
You
we
them
charge,
money.
then we have to pay copyright fee, and that's where we get them from the county.
Mhm.
Most of the time when we do those, we get them from the county. But we could do the movie nights and no charge, and then we don't have to worry about it.
That's killer. Absolutely.
We have
I
the
think
equipment.
our
Yeah.
community really enjoys that, with the families if we could do it once a month, this may be,
And And like William said, it might,
Too difficult, but.
yeah, it
you
might
know,
not even cost
once
us
a month,
the money here. Yeah.
It really is a time where the families go out. I hear so many good things about that, and they just go out with their lawn chairs and sit out, and it's family movies, and Prince Field seems like a great location for it, but I know, there might be damage to the field, so I don't think the
Median.
circle works
Remember that?
well.
We did one at the
Um,
median that was.
Yeah.
The median is to, okay,
Yeah.
yeah,
Most
okay.
cities do it about every 3 to 4 months.
Okay.
Depending on the time of the year, March is usually a good time, because we just discussed weather. A good time to do it on October, November phase. They try to stay away from it in the summertime because
It's
either
just
they're
too hot.
rained out or
Mhm. Or the mosquitoes. and-
Mosquitoes. Yeah.
Here, obviously, you do it, we've discussed this at length, various locations in the city, whether it's at Stafford, Prince, the Circle, the median, we discussed it having on the golf course at night, on one of them, maybe the fifth tee box, like,
Mhm.
like, we've got all different ideas, but, the good thing is that if we show any movie that's not, like we're not in charge, we don't have to worry about the cost. So we're looking at, what we thought about doing is making it pretty simple. You bring your chair, you bring a towel, you bring your cooler, we'll have popcorn.
And that's it.
we'll have
Right, right,
candy.
You also can't sell concessions, right?
That's what
Yeah,
I was
but
gonna
my
ask.
understanding is you can't do any fundraising as part of the event right, it's got to be free.
Like, for example, camp out, we charge you for the space that you're renting out, like a camp space.
Mhm.
Since we're charging for that space, and we're showing them.
Mhm.
I need to have the microphone, with Omar.
Okay.
It's not picking up.
I think, and if that is, a little too zealous to say every month, that's fine, whatever you think is possible. I know what they call the dive-in movie night or something that, occasionally, maybe once or twice, we could have it at the pool and, and people can watch her in the pool against the wall that, in the
At
summer.
the pool is, it's a
It's
little bit
that
more
too.
difficult for safety purposes.
Okay, and I'll leave that up to you. It's not,
Correct.
these are just ideas, but those are the kinds of things that, as much as possible, give our residents the opportunity to stay here in the Springs, to enjoy things with their family, but also to get to know their neighbors. I really believe that the strength in our neighborhood, a lot of it comes from, us knowing our neighbors. And I don't mean just your neighbor next door. I mean, neighbors in Miami Springs. It builds a lot of really great relationships, and that community strengthens our community and makes it an enjoyable place to live.
Well, we're all for it.
So-
We're interested, no
Okay,
doubt.
that's wonderful.
Denise is super
So we
excited.
have the equipment. I thought we had to, yeah. I can imagine.
We don't have the screen.
Okay.
We don't have the screen,
Screen,
but we
okay.
have the sound equipment that we use.
I would say the Circle, I know a few years ago, one of the local churches was having movie nights at the Circle, and that did not work well with the cars going around it. You couldn't hear. It was dangerous because, people were trying to leave to get across to go back, in the middle of the movie.
Yes, it's
And-
it's ironic
and
you say, because
traffic.
we discussed it recently, and we, as much as the circles in the middle of town, we would have to have a complete road closure
Right.
because of
Yeah.
sound, because of safety, and
And it's
it
still
just,
too
it wouldn't,
much light.
yeah.
No, it doesn't.
So we thought about other locations.
Prince
Prince
Field,
is one of
Prince
our
Field.
main spots for it. The equipment's right there. We don't have to
The
drive it
parking is
down.
easy.
It's
It's
easy.
wide.
Plus you're fenced in. You're
Yeah.
also fenced in for
So
security.
we've thought about a couple of places for it. We have some unique ideas that we might have. So we want to see how it first goes in simple locations and then start to be innovative and try different things out if Paul will let us.
And while you're there, I want to say about the golf cart, Christmas golf cart thing. That was such a hit this year.
Oh.
Everyone is looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Caitlin, is that your idea?
Yeah,
That was,
Caitlin.
oh my gosh. I
I'm
can't
gonna
wait.
rent a golf cart this year because
Just
I
to
want to be
decorate.
part of it. I told
It
Frankie,
was,
I'm gonna have to call you so you could
A
help.
lot of fun. What a great idea.
Mayor, I have a question.
Aside,
Sir.
oh, go ahead.
Actually, no, let's finish with the wish list. Then I have a question for Omar.
Aside from the movie night, the only other thing with recreation was Councilman Best was inquiring about adding a tiki hut and a water fountain at the tennis courts.
There at the present time, there is very limited shade there, particularly in the mornings when there's no wind and stuff. And these guys are out there 9 o'clock in the morning, and there's just nothing to get under. And while we're doing that, I mean, that's been successful in the city over the years, these tiki huts, and it would just fall right into,
But where are you talking about? It would be the tiki hut.
well, just, you could put it off to the, it would be, let me see, the west side of the court, just to the south of where the stand, where they have the office, the stand, pro shop, whatever you want, whatever you call it. There's room there for it.
It's a covered area there, though.
No. There's room for it. I've walked it. Yeah, I've talked to Manny about it too. And
And
then,
he has a location that.
well, he
thinks-
obviously he'll coordinate with Omar and take a look and see what the best location, but just to have it out there, and it would just be fitting that we, follow in line with what we've done in the other various mini parks around the town along Ludlam Road and everything. And then while we're doing that, we might as well give them some water to drink.
There's
'cause-
not a water fountain
Nope.
there? There was one. It's on.
There used to be a water fountain.
Yeah.
There used
around
to
the
be
back
one.
of
If I don't, if there isn't one, I don't know anything about
It's
that. I can find
behind
out.
The office.
Trust
the
me.
Pro shop. It's not working? It's not there? Oh, that would
I'll
be.
check that first thing
Yes,
tomorrow, but I was under
absolutely.
the impression that we had a water fountain
Yeah.
and it's been there.
we
it's
need-
not
right,
working?
Maybe it's not working, but we need to have that for sure.
We'll check it tomorrow.
Yes.
Yeah.
With what I know from the tennis community that they've been asking me for is not specifically like a cheeky hut.
Tiki.
They want
Shaded
in
area.
between their courts.
In between the courts.
Little
That's what I was
benches
gonna
with the
ask
shade.
you.
That's what they've been asking me for. And the reality is that depending on the court and the size of it, it could be a safety issue. There's only one court that I could potentially put it on, which is the one that's, there's two front courts and there's two back courts. The one that's all the way to the west of the court
Yeah.
of the
Mhm.
tennis city. That one I have enough space. If you start putting those which you have a pole and someone's running to get a ball and they
No,
hit
no,
a pole,
you
we
don't
could
want
be
that.
liable.
Or the ball
So
hits them.
they're space wise there, it's interesting. But I've never, and again, I'll talk to Manny tomorrow. I'll text him tonight. But the reality is that the cheeky hut's not an issue if it fits. And yeah, we'll check about the water fountain. There should be water there 100%. If it's not working, we'll get it fixed.
Obviously,
right
we
away.
can't move on this until he does his,
Let's
take
get
a look
But
at it.
I'll check with them. But I know they've been asking for that for
Yeah.
quite
Feedback
some
I've
time.
gotten from the tennis players is that they want the kind of like, there's already benches though between,
There are
right?
the
Like they want just like a little,
shade.
A
a
canopy
little
over it.
canopy
Yeah.
over the bench. I've seen
Yeah.
pictures of it.
And
I think that
in my discussions with him, Vice Mayor, I was the one that ascended it to a tiki hut. I said, listen, if you're going to do that, why don't you
Right.
do something? And
They have complained about the current canopy that's there, that it's very hot.
Yeah.
So that's one of the complaints I've gotten from them, that it does provide shade, but that it's very hot in there. I guess because the type of canopy, the material it is could be very.
polyester.
Now I've sat there before and
Mm.
I don't feel it as hot, but I'm not playing tennis. I'm meeting there with Manny. So I mean, at the end of the day, I'm in the sun when I'm walking the parks. If I get to the tennis court, I'm in this thing, I'm happy. But I'm not playing tennis and then
Right.
trying to get cooled down, and it's pretty warm in there. So
Well, usually what you want is between like sets that you have just a little place to stand there and while you drink your water to be in the shade.
that's kind of what they
Um,
wanted.
right,
That's
right.
where they've been leaning towards. And I know that some of the space in between the courts is a little bit tight. And I was gonna put one on that one court. And then I was like, well, if you're gonna put one, put one. So I'll talk to them. We'll
Yeah,
get
yeah,
something
yeah.
done there.
By the way, just so you understand, I didn't have the discussion with the tiki hut with Manny. These were
I know.
people that were out there
Vincent
playing,
Medell.
and some among others.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah. He's the one of the, and his crew in the morning, the guys that I talk to most of the
this is
time.
the Saturday morning group. Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
They're awesome. They're great guys. And,
Yeah, they're out
and
there
I'm
every-
gonna help them out, but sometimes,
They
some
should
of
make a
their-
donation.
No, you never know.
you never know. Yeah.
You never know.
Get them together, you know?
Thank you, Mayor.
I have a quick question. What's laser grading?
Laser grading, great question. So basically the ball fields with time, the more you drag them, the more they get used, clay starts to go off the field, right? Even when we have rain, you'll notice sometimes the water just takes the clay off the field. So laser grading basically is that we add truckloads of clay to the field, and then we have to basically smooth it out, and we laser grade it with a crown so that when it rains, the water percolates off the field. It doesn't sit in one spot. It's just a fancy name for basically just smoothing the field out and making sure the water goes to certain areas that we want it to go to.
And adding clay.
And adding clay. Yeah.
Okay.
So that we don't get the reality is that with wind and rain, we lose a lot of clay off the fields. Windy days for us is a nightmare because you'll see that all the clay just gets picked up. And if we don't water the fields, like let's say it's a Sunday and it's windy, yeah, not good. I'm cringing at home because I know the clay is going everywhere. So we have to sometimes I'll have the staff water the fields on Sunday just to keep it water so the clay sits. If you guys have ever been by Prince on a day we have a lot of rain and you can just see all the clay on Westward and Apache.
I'm amazed at in the mornings how much work we have going on in the fields to get them ready for the evening. It takes a lot of work. I don't think
Yeah.
people realize they just see the fields there and they go, "Oh." And we have crews out there every
yeah.
morning doing a lot of work, getting them ready for that evening, for that afternoon.
I see him at a PV Dub every morning.
Yeah.
Every
I
morning.
don't
Where are
think
you
so.
doing the laser grading, PV, and where, Prince or Stafford or?
It'll be the one field at PV, the big one.
Mhm.
And then it'll be, I think it's the big one at Stafford and the two at Prince.
Okay.
And plus you guys also assist with the high school baseball field too.
That's correct. That's correct. Which the high school was generous this year to, if you guys know, they let us use their field for flag football. So
Mhm.
in case you guys see the new principal, you can thank them for that.
Gotcha.
It's
Mhm.
very helpful. for
Good
them.
job.
Any other questions? I have
No.
about, and I'm not sure if it's here or somewhere else, the pickleball that we had discussed.
Hmm.
Should that be on the wish list or is that something where?
I
what's
don't know
the
if we were to
status?
put that in that other,
I think
that's
we're
some of the
doing-
project list we had. That wasn't like a
You're gonna,
request
that
for
was,
us.
that was gonna come to a regular council meeting, I think, going forward.
But is
To
that
the
something that needs to be
Budgeted?
budgeted? Right? We're talking,
Well, we,
Chair.
yes.
I think we were discussing on matters of location and space first, right? And we didn't know what to do. So I think I see here we have a parks master plan potential grant. And I think that they were going to look into a parks plan to see the city as a whole in general, what we can incorporate, because I think the issue was space as well.
Well, the locations that we had talked about either at the Golf and Country
Yeah.
Club, which ideally would be the best thing
Mhm.
because we have that component of the food and beverage.
But didn't
Certainly,
we
but-
already kind of like
but
put to rest
that's-
the golf course because of
the-
lack of
the-
infrastructure?
The water and sewer. No, I
You
think
wanted
the
to
water and
do
sewer
one.
work.
Right now, the only place you could really do
Is
it
Stafford.
is the
Stafford.
area we looked at
Right,
Stafford.
at Stafford.
Has water and sewer finished that work or no? Wausau
Tennis-
at the golf
golf
course? No.
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 And then we have our own work starting in March.
Right. Okay.
I think we were looking at tying in those two projects.
Yeah.
And then seeing what we had available and then going forward with that.
I don't think it's too.
Okay, so
premature.
my question is, this isn't for this budget year, or we're just going to consider that, or what? What are we talking about with the pickleball?
Yeah. I think it
Well,
would-
what we could do is we could budget away some money so that it wouldn't be so expensive when we did decide to do it, if and when the council decided to do it. That's a possibility. If it's something that's going to be inevitable, then it might not be a bad idea to seed some money away right now, if we got it to spend.
Through the chair, I think, I don't think that that's gonna happen in the next year or even 2 years. I think with the money that we're shuffling now and then with the increases that we've received from our the individuals that came today, we can balance out there, but also to piggyback, just to make us feel better. Doral just opened up their pickleball, so they're very close. We can go exert our pickleball anxiety and go to Doral really quick and get that. And hey, start practicing. But I just saw, because I follow the page, I saw they just opened up a couple courts. So if you want to get the experience, I've been meaning to go down there myself and get the experience. But budgeting for now really is just kind of, I think, would be creating a unnecessary deficit to the actual
Percent.
numbers that.
Well, it'd be a
I mean,
deficit,
when
it'd
do
be-
you think, I mean, we still have to wait for the golf course to finish all that. We still have the East Drive. We want to tie some big projects together to have a clean layout, I guess a clean map, see where we're gonna go.
It's an interesting subject because pickleball is blowing up.
It is.
I mean, crazy in the recreation field and athletics. It's
No,
now
and now's the
become
time that residents
huge.
are asking for
Yeah,
it.
that's right.
So
I
it's-
mean, it's not going to be immediate because it takes time, but it takes
Correct.
planning.
it.
To
it-
go
it-
anywhere else,
it
you
to the-
can go
to
other
the
places
point
to
where
play it, but the point
on the
is to
cruise
make.
ship That I just got off of.
Huh?
On the cruise ship, they had a
Okay.
pickleball
Well,
court.
right.
Nice.
Yeah, I've heard of that. Yeah.
Well, and one of the
And the
things
ball goes.
Did you play?
is, and you know, what we're trying to do is create opportunities that residents can do here.
Yeah.
You know, they can
Correct.
drive to other places if they want to. They can go to,
Obviously,
I
but-
used to play tennis down in Kendall all the time. Just because that's where my friends were that played tennis, but ideally I would rather play it here.
In the meantime, what Paul did is, Jan, the lady that's doing the design work for the golf course, is also going to look at what areas are available out there for us to do what
Potentially.
we want to do and give us an idea of what type of design will work at the golf course.
That starts up what,
Okay.
in April, March?
March.
March.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, delayed a year, right?
Mayor, you also wanted to bring up, Rio Vista Park?
Yes, yes. I wanted to ask Omar, and I know this is short notice, that Rio Vista Park, which is that park between, is it Albatross and Rio Vista?
Yep.
Heading right before
Yes.
if you're going,
Ludlam
what is
North.
that, west on
North
on
Royal
North Royal
Poinciana.
Royal,
Poinciana?
North.
Heading west right before you hit the golf court, the dog park.
Mhm.
That seems like an opportunity there to create something for our residents. And I don't mean a playground. I think we, have those, but some other kind of recreational opportunity, perhaps volleyball nets, that are just set up that you kind of pick up games, or basketball, pick up something.
We've actually discussed Rio Vista, myself and Kaylin, for some time now. And the reality is that it's a nice property,
It's
but
irregular,
there's, but it's kind of awkward in its setting because there's neighbors like right
On
there.
top of it, yeah.
Where even one of the neighbors, like their driveways like in the park, and then you have the alley where Public Works needs to get in and out. So the key would be, if you develop a park there, how do you develop it, and what type of infrastructure you're going to try to implement? So for example, we talked about parking recently, and we talked about, like, on Albatross, you'd have to put a small parking lot there. It's the only place you could put it at. Because on the other side, you have the neighbor that's right there. At least if I live there, you put a parking lot there, I'm gonna not be happy. So we have to consider all these options, right? So we talk about parking, and we thought about minimal parking, because we don't want to have something too inviting where people are coming in 10, 15, 20 cars, because that's not the object. That's not what we're trying to do, at least from our perspective. So we're thinking of a passive park where you'd have a walking path, some benches you could sit down, maybe a gazebo or a nice cheeky hut where someone could have a picnic. I don't know if you guys noticed, but the cheeky hut by the boat ramp,
Across the street.
that is used
Yeah.
It's all,
all
there's
the
someone there
time.
always.
all the time.
Yep.
I've seen families there have breakfast. We saw someone have KFC there.
Mhm.
So we figured if we could have a similar space on the park side, right? Maybe a butterfly garden, a lot of greenery, just a place you can go read a book, have Wi-Fi, where you can get connected right away, not where it doesn't work. Like, have it where it's just a real nice green space to go and enjoy, where you can walk
Mhm.
there, take your child, walk around, do things like that. If we wanted to do volleyball, we could.
Probably room for
I
that.
will be honest with you, put a volleyball court there, it's gonna get packed.
Mhm.
Okay. The famous Field of Dreams, if you build it, they will come. I promise you, if you build it, they will show up. Once they show up, they're gonna want lights.
Neighbors.
So you have neighbors. So it's one
Parking.
of those, it's a tough situation, parking, the infrastructure. So it's one of those that, do we want to create a park that's gonna be absolutely awesome, but then we have a problem with traffic, parking, infrastructure, lights, neighbors? Or do we create a passive park that still services the community? It's a nice space, go with your laptop, do some work, enjoy the weather, maybe have a butterfly garden. I even thought about, we talked about even having like a community garden where we would find, if we could find one of the civic clubs to run it, and you could go there and pick carrots, and it's just a community garden that if you want, you could just go and it's open to the public. So things like that, thinking outside the box is kind of what we were going with it. But we're not opposed either to a volleyball court. We're
Well,
not
just
opposed to
keep it in
other
mind. I think all those things are, I think we probably all need just time to think about it
Right.
and, and you to think about it some more. For me, and all of the ideas you've talked about are great. I know the community garden, I think the ecology club for a while was trying to do that. My only thing with the community garden is that really needs somebody dedicated that's
Right.
going to run it, because after the
If not,
first,
become a
it'll
mess. Yeah.
be, weeds. And so that has to be, and it can't be one of our staff members, being out there maintaining the fields and then,
Right.
the sports fields and then going and tending the garden. So
We have
it's
to also
difficulty
lift that space. I don't know if we know that
to
it's
the
pretty
low.
low So I don't know if that'll create an impact on those neighbors.
Right. And it would have to be in the daytime, not in the evenings, and there could be problems. I think one of the things I've noticed with the rec center, which is great, is the pickup games that kids go. And I think you told me that one time that kids go after school, they just go hang out instead of hanging out or video, they go and see if there's pickup games going on. And, you know, those kind of things like volleyball and basketball, where you just go, you see that on Miami Beach, you know, with the volleyball nets and people just go and get a game together. Those kind of opportunities are really great for our youths. And I don't mean just, you know, the 14-year-old that's into the 20s and everything of.
You could easily put a nice walking path there and then put like a volleyball court in the middle. And it's just, you know, it services the public where they could just come and put a nice bike rack. They could ride bike there, things like that. So it's possible. It's actually a decent space. It's not as, if you drive by it, you might just wing right by it and think it's a small space. It really isn't. It's a decent space.
It's good size. Yeah.
And if planned out correctly, you could get a decent little park there. There's no doubt about it.
Okay, so maybe you can think of some more on it, Omar, and I think we can all too, and see if there's something, but it seems like a really ideal place for,
I agree.
you know, continuing to provide these outdoor recreation opportunities and amenities throughout the city.
I agree. It's a good spot for sure.
Good.
Mayor, since we're talking
Sir.
about one last question, since we're talking about the budgeted items for Parks and Rec for next year, what's the status of the proposal that was made for that workout station complex thing on Curtis Parkway?
We've given up on that. and,
Okay.
We are working with our grant writer on our FERDAP grant to fund exercise stations along
Along-
Curtis Parkway.
I think that's a much better idea.
Me too.
We have, is that gonna come Monday or
It should be on our the 29th council meeting.
22nd?
It's on the next month.
29th isn't that budget workshop?
22nd, sorry.
22nd.
We're applying for a grant for that.
Yes,
That-
we're applying for a grant.
And
Wonderful.
part of the requirement is that we have to have a public meeting.
Correct.
To discuss the item and get council consensus on it.
I think that's a much better idea.
Same thing.
And I know I missed
Two
that
birds,
meeting,
one
but
stone.
Hmm?
The
You're gonna
public
wait.
meeting and the
Stations is
council
what I
meeting,
was
same
thinking
thing.
Yeah.
what my doctor was thinking about.
Your doctor. We'll meet you there. All of us.
Omar has done his homework.
Okay,
Part
great.
of it, you'll see a Google Earth map with the areas that we're looking at,
Cool.
how many exercise stations in each block and all that.
Mm.
So
Great.
I think you did a good job laying it out.
You really did.
Okay, Omar, while you're here. why don't
Oh,
you-
I have one more thing just to ask, and this is something a resident had reached out about the hours for the pool in Caitlin. On Saturday mornings that they wanted, I explained to them that, you know, we have to have operating hours that meet the majority of people, you know, how likely they are to go, and there has to be downtime for staff and maintenance and all. But just passing that along that, you know, some residents would like to see the operating hours a little earlier on Saturday mornings.
Not a problem as long as they show up. I'll be honest with you.
Right.
We've
No, I
tried
know.
this a million times
Nobody shows.
and we'll open up and they'll show up the first Saturday, they'll show up the second Saturday,
That's
and
it.
then I have 3 guards there. They don't show up. And there comes that we've done 7 a.m. We've done everything.
And they
I
don't-
will promise you, if they show up, I have no problem staffing it. But it doesn't make any business sense for me to have 3, 4 guards there because you got to have a minimum of a certain amount of guards. And sometimes they're sitting there till 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning with nothing to do. We have them clean things up. We have them clean the bathrooms. You know, there's a million things to do. But if they have them contact me, if they show up, I promise you, we will open up for them. That is the least of my worries. But then they don't show up.
Right. And probably now, since we're going into the winter months and stuff, it's less likely. So perhaps it's something to, you know, to consider, like in the spring and summer.
Yeah.
Where everyone's.
No,
in
and
swim mode.
I understand there's seasonal moments for that. Like there's like we have some athletes in the city that they get ready for what's the race that they do? The triathlons and the Ironman.
Oh, the
And they'll reach out to me and they'll ask me, hey, for the next 3-4 weeks, can you open up the pool early so we could train? No problem.
Yeah.
But 4 or 5 of them were showing up. At least those residents, you know, they pay taxes here. I get it. The pool's there for them to swim and practice. I don't mind opening up. The guards want the hours. It's not about that.
Mm.
But I can't pay 3-4 guards to be there.
If
and
there's
there's
no
no
one
one
there.
there.
No, I agree.
So but have them call me. If they show up, we've talked about this. I promise you, I'll open up the pool for them.
This
That's
was early in the summer, so I've got a feeling that, for next spring or summer might be something they're interested in.
we'll definitely open up for them.
Okay.
We open up basketball 7 o'clock in the morning on Saturdays.
do.
And people told me that's crazy. Open up the rec at 9. Remember when we first opened the community center? I'm like, you're gonna have people play early mornings, and we have a group of gentlemen that have been coming to the rec center since day one,
Or
every
since
day at 7 a.m.
1992.
Mm.
The
They're there.
year.
And I don't mind opening up because it's about 15 guys that come and play ball
Yeah.
every Saturday
And,
morning.
I just found out recently, they text each other and find out who's coming to make sure they have enough so that they don't wake up early and, and show up and there's only 2 guys, so they all confirm by text to, if I'm going to get up at 6:30 on Saturday morning, I want to make sure. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, all right. Now show up. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's great.
Tammy.
That's
Yeah,
good.
and you got the room for it too, Caitlin, right? Yeah, Monty. Omar, I don't know if this is, if I might, Maria,
Yes.
I just got to thank you for, this is a tremendous responsibility to run a department the size that you do. And I got to tell you, since you came up here from Homestead, I have seen you just build an empire out of this Rex. And I'd like to thank you. And I'm sure everybody's behind me here on the council and in the whole city of Miami Springs.
Thank
You've
you. I
done a great
appreciate
job,
that.
sir.
Thank you. I'll be honest with you guys. It's my job is a great job. I have support, first of all, from the manager, Ron, Jim, William. They've always been here to support me. Whatever I've asked them, they've never blinked. They've told me whatever you need, make it happen. Obviously, mayor and council, and I don't say it because Kaylin's here. You guys have heard me say it before. Without my staff, we're nothing. We're nothing. And that's the honest truth.
Ditto.
Okay. That's the honest truth.
But, I
Without
tell
them, we're
that
absolutely
people about our city. I
Oh,
go,
everywhere,
it's
across the
our
board.
employees.
Yep.
I go, you think, it's such a great city and all this, and you have no idea how much our employees are the ones that are contributing to make sure that that's so. The dedication and expertise, professional availability, even listening to ideas constantly, like you're saying, have them call me and we'll see what we can do. And I know you mean that. If residents are asking for something, we try to make it happen for them.
I appreciate the kind words. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let's go to section 16 so we can get Tammy. I know she's falling asleep on me.
George is waking her up back there earlier.
Okay, Councilwoman Bravo would, huh? You sure? We can take a little break.
Want to take a break?
Do I take a
Anyone
break?
need a
Let's take a 5-minute break.
I think we
Continue.
should go when we need.
Okay,
I know
all right.
it's all-
No break.
Going on?
Yeah,
or is that-
go ahead. She's gonna catch up.
Tammy's budget starts on page 16-7. And this year she was the proud beneficiary of $750,000 worth of LSP funding, which will enable her to add some new programs, hopefully. What happened when we got the allocations from the state or from the Alliance, they had allocated a bulk of that 750 to food instead of programs. So she's working with the Alliance to try and get that changed. Because the amount of money they allocated for food, we're never gonna be able to,
Yeah, they actually allocated $580,000 for weekend homebound lunches. And we have about 90 people that are homebound currently. So that's a lot of money for lunches on the weekend.
Overkill.
So I did speak to them several times. I reached back out again today, and they are working on reallocating it to, some of the programming
one of the
categories.
things Tammy wants to do is to add a counselor.
Yes.
Yeah, I see that.
Yes, have somebody come in, a mental health counselor, just to be available for our seniors. I think it's a pretty important service that we can provide.
That was something that a senior asked you for or something.
A senior brought it up, and ironically, somebody approached Angie Aguila, who had just retired from 44 years in the public school system of being a counselor, and was inquiring about opportunities at the senior center. So it all kind of came together at once. So hopefully we'll be able to do something under what they call health support, which is under our LSP funding from the state. hopefully we'll be able to use money from that category to cover it.
And I know the programming, Tammy, I know we've talked about it, the programming that's offered at the senior center is just great. The yoga classes, the fitness classes, and the trainer and the yoga instructor. And I know Ms. Cavalier does the art classes, but there's music appreciation. I mean, there's so many classes being offered and so many people taking advantage of them. And they're not just being offered, they're packed. Everyone is just really enjoying the senior center. If you go there, in the mornings, people are sitting in the lounge area, you know, and waiting for their classes, and then they go and, you know, they're talking and hanging out, and they go to the classes, come back, and it's just become like a really social country club type of atmosphere, which is wonderful. Provides a lot of I think companionship and activities and for, you know, our residents. Awesome. The senior center's used in the evenings by like the Boy Scouts and all. It's available to others. It's not just for senior activities, right?
Yes.
You have ping pong?
Right.
We do. We have
That's
ping
for all
pong.
ages. And so we use it, we're using it pretty much all the time because in the evenings it's open. That's great.
I think
We're going to expand some programming, health support programming on Saturdays as well.
Wow.
Yeah, I think the Historical Society, for one, had their dinner over there a couple months ago, wasn't it? Yeah.
To the
Anybody have any
chair.
questions? Yes.
Tammy, I just want to thank you, honestly, from the bottom of my heart, because I'm not the elderly one, but my grandpa is. And my mom has been really stressed out and like trying to look for help, and she's been cooking. So I'm like, Ma, why don't you just call our elderly service center and try to speak to Tammy or somebody there? And I go, they have home delivered nutrition that I know because we've approved on budget. It seems like they have a great ordeal of varieties and options, and you know, call her. She's a very good, or anybody there would be a good resource for you to ask any questions, because to be an Alzheimer's caretaker is, I mean, I'm doing it with her. So I'm not here now. I typically do every other Monday, but it's crazy. And I just want to tell you, and from me and from my mom and my family, that it's been a huge help. And she's so happy. She's even receiving meals because she's his full-time caretaker. And the food has been top notch.
Wow.
And he is a picky Cuban eater, and he is eating everything, and he hasn't lost his ability to chew and stuff. And we thought he did. It was just the caretaker we had before was making him these bland foods.
How's it cook?
So that, but this has been a huge help. And I think that we take for granted the access that we have to elderly care within our own community. I don't know of many cities that do have it. And if they do, it's not as warm as this one, I feel. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for saying that. It is very difficult to navigate when it comes time to reach out for help for family members and loved ones. I had somebody approach me just today who is actually thinking ahead, which is a smart thing to do. And she's like, what about transportation? What about when I get to the point where I can't clean my house anymore? She's thinking about that. And there are, you know, resources out in the community, but we're very, very, very blessed that the city built that facility and that we're able to provide the things that we provide. I mean, nutrition alone is such a huge impact on
Their well-being.
Yeah, on their well-being. Yeah,
Thank
exactly.
Do we rent, I know we have other facilities in the city that we rent out that people can rent. In fact, Omar, I wanted to ask you, I should have asked when Caitlin was here. I happened to be at the Aquatic Center this afternoon or this morning, and I noticed there was a paper on the window and it said private events. And it had a whole bunch of dates. Those are days that people are renting the Aquatic Center to have like a party or something. That's awesome. Yeah.
Have certain times that we'll rent it out. We do privates either from 10 in the morning to about 1 o'clock, which then gives us the rest of the afternoon to rent, to have the pool open to the public. But the private rentals pay about anywhere between $1,500 to $2,000.
Right,
for a
they're
private
good
rental.
revenue.
So it's pretty good revenue. And it's been in the first couple of years we did it, it wasn't as popular, but after COVID, like everybody wants to have their own private party. So it just completely blew up. Like out of every, like it's crazy. Like we want a private party, and they rent out usually the multi-purpose room. They have food there. They keep most of the older crowd in there, and then all the kids are in the water, and it's great. And we make some really good revenue. So, and we're able to still open up the pool to the public with the timeframes that we have it.
Plus you get people
close.
going in, they see you as a courtesy, you're putting that up so people will know.
Correct. Because we've had people show up, and obviously they're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, we didn't know." And
Mm.
we've done posts on Instagram, but not everybody has it. We've posted on Facebook, so we've had some people that but we tell them to come back, and that come back at 1, and we'll let you in for free, and they're happy about that.
Cool.
And how about the senior center? Do we have any of those rooms, like the activity rooms that we have, the Manny Diaz room or the Brian Avila room available for rent?
Yes.
Or
Yes, they're all available for rent.
And how about the back, which I love, is the patio in the back?
That's very
that
popular.
overlooks that rents too?
Birthday parties, baby
Yes,
showers.
that's
Very
awesome that it looks
popular.
over the playground.
Playground's right next to it. Perfect.
Yeah, we've done really well with the rentals.
Wow. Good.
Good to know. Any other
Okay.
questions?
Questions for the senior center?
No, other than I'll see you in the morning. I had a friend of mine and his sister coming over to sign up tomorrow morning.
Oh,
Or over 60, both of them. So
Great. Sounds
Tammy,
good.
thank you, and Angie and Betty. All
Thank you.
Thanks
some
a lot,
of the-
Tammy.
Thank you all.
And I'm telling you, ever since we've got the new senior center, everyone's so happy that's there. There's just not before, I don't know,
There's a sense of ownership, I
There-
think, with the new building. People really do
Really
feel
is.
like it's their place. We had somebody approach us recently that wanted to do a movie discussion group. So they're using one of the rooms once a month or watching a film, and people can come in and sit and discuss the film, and they've really, people that are coming have really made it their own, just really nice.
I've noticed with the, I know I've told you this, just if you watch and they're not really seniors, they're just adults, but not young adults, I guess. Because senior, it makes it seem like very elderly people, and that we have all ages. Is it starting 55 or 60? What ages do you participate in the senior
It's
centers?
55.
55.
Yeah.
So, but the difference in how the attire that everyone goes now, and they're in their little workout suits and, just active wear and matchy, really cool active wear with nice, it's not the senior center of before where, people just went to sit and have their lunch and leave. And
I will tell you that workout room at the senior center rivals the one at the rec center.
Yeah.
There you go. I think, well, they're certainly equal, but yeah, it's dynamite.
if anyone hasn't,
Go check it out.
is eligible to go to the adult community center is really what it's called. And they haven't, please go check it out. It's an amazing resource right here in Miami Springs.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thank you
Thanks,
so
Tammy.
much.
Thanks, Omar.
Next, I'd like to bring up code compliance in the building department so we can let these poor people go home afterwards.
Yeah, really.
Come on in, Rosemary.
Will you pass the city council? I could go
Let's
home.
do code compliance first. It's on section 11. Budget is on 11-4, and on 11-3, you'll have the highlights. The budget is about 36,000 or 13.1% higher than the past year. Increase is mainly due to the addition of an additional code enforcement officer this year. And the budget as well includes $15,000 for the services of the special magistrate. You'll see the line item budget on 11-4, and Ulysses and Rosemary are here in case you have any questions.
Thank you for being so
Evening.
patient.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a new code compliance officer on the books.
Is that going to put you where you need to be, Ulysses?
Time, yes.
Gotcha.
Good. How about as far as a vehicle? What happens?
That's the vehicle that we ordered.
Same
Yeah.
thing. Same thing.
Oh,
as the
it's the
other
vehicle we ordered.
Thinking
Yeah.
January.
one.
There's still a
The,
competition.
not this one, not the recreation one. You mean the one you ordered in January?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that we're waiting for that.
Yeah.
Okay.
They haven't given us a date yet, but hopefully this year. By September, I think.
They called, what was it, a month or two ago, and said it hasn't even gone to production yet.
No, no.
That's how bad it is.
And then all the on TV, all you see are ads for new cars. It's like they're still advertising new cars all the time and nothing's available. It's the strangest
My wife
thing.
leased a car now in January and we got it in, I think in May.
Oh,
I think everybody's down the line. It's the same. They're advertising it, but
You
when
got
you go to
lucky.
the showroom, it's empty. So,
You got lucky with your BMW. They only had one?
They only had one.
What about, we had talked about William and it was going to go in this budget and I just remembered now, that, system that some of the cities are using where residents can actually on their
Well, yeah,
phones
and when we get
self-report
to-
if they
when
see
we
a
get to
pothole or
finance,
something.
When we get to finance, we'll look at, it's under a wish list.
Oh,
of
okay,
The professional services for that app. Yeah.
okay. That's to self-report, like for code and other,
For everything.
everything. Okay, all right, wonderful.
Everything. Okay. No questions on code, then section 21
You guys are easy.
is building department, which is Ulysses. And again, the building department is separate from the general fund, the separate special revenue fund, so the proposed budget is 15,299 or 1.3% lower. And again, as I mentioned in the past, in accordance to state laws, the fees generated by the building function should be used for the exclusive purpose of funding the operating costs of the function. And his budget is on page 21-4. And Ulysses is here in case you have any specific questions. Like any big projects coming up, Ulysses?
oh, we got the real
The realtors,
realtor building. So that's gonna bring some funds into the building.
when is that gonna, they approved the plans yet or not?
Not, the plants are in Durham right now.
Right.
So I would say maybe sometime this month, maybe. we should get
Oh, they
it.
were doing the county now?
Just doing the con,
We gotta go Durham Fire?
Durham Fire.
Wow.
Those are the kill, those are the two killers, those two. Yeah.
But we did a review before the plants went out there. So when they come back from fire, we should be able to approve them right away. So we're helping them out that way. So.
Yeah.
Hopefully it won't be too, too soon. We'll see.
Ulysses, I'm looking at the accomplishments for this year. It says scan 50% of remaining large files in storage rooms. So pretty much the storage room.
That's the storage room that when you go into the building department, it's the door that you see behind one of the clerks' desks. That room was full of plants, huge plants, 24 by 36 and bigger. We've been able to scan all those. We started with the ones in the office first. We cleared those out and now we're tackling those. My plan is if I'm able to, if we scan all those plans, we could turn that into maybe an office for license or at least some type of extra space because we need it.
Yeah.
For annexation, you mean?
Huh?
For annexation? You need space?
I didn't say
Yeah,
that, but
one needs
hopefully-
space.
That's interesting. It's the first time that's come up tonight.
You have to think, and plan ahead for that.
So we finished scanning those large files in that
We're
storage?
50%.
50%.
That's the last, those are the last plans that we left. We started doing the ones that were inside the office in some, I don't know what you call it. but it's 3 files. So they're like when you go to
Yeah.
dentist office or office,
Mhm.
the doctor's office, you have those ones that.
Mhm.
Got 3 of those. We got rid of those
That's
and we
wonderful.
left those plans for last. Those are the big ones.
Yeah.
So we're at 50%. I think we should get back some plans that were scanned, that were sent out for scanning, I think about a month ago. So we should get them back hopefully this month and then prepare those to be sent out again. And Eric has also been helpful with that too. So
It's time consuming.
it is.
It's good to be electronic anyways. Apart
Everything-
from the space, being
Everything's gonna
electronic
be
is always.
electronic. So Somebody,
Yeah.
a resident or contractor wants to come and get some files, we could just, look
Yeah.
it up in Laserfish and give them the,
Yeah.
the plans, digital, so
Yeah,
save space.
yeah.
Yep.
And how about the hiring of the building specialist? So if we open up, oh, that's for code compliance
For both.
for both.
Yeah, it'll
for
leave us-
The new,
If I was informed that one of my staff may be interested, going to the code compliance officer position, because she already does license.
Mhm.
So she'll be doing license and commercial and helping us out that way. So that'll leave a space open for a new permit clerk. So
Mhm.
we got some people in mind, but if need to, we'll advertise and
Mhm.
get the word out.
Yeah.
About how long does that take the training before they can, like, say with code compliance to start?
Trainer here.
I know.
Rosemary, she's trained already 2 people. She's gonna-
Thank you, Rosemary, by the way, for all you do. I know it's sometimes mostly a pretty thankless job, I think, from residents,
definitely,
right?
It's a very hard job and they do.
I have so much respect for that position
I know,
because
I
it's a
know.
thankless job,
I know.
thankless job.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not easy.
Except that we're thankful from the residents of Miami Springs that you're doing, what you need to do for us to maintain our codes, but
Yeah, and I mean, Omar is right, without my staff, and the support that I get from William and Tammy and everybody else, my department will not be running as efficient, I think, as it is running now. So we could always improve. But, we're doing the best we can with what we have. But Rosemary has trained already 2 people, two people that came from permit clerks.
Mhm.
And now she'd be on the 3rd person if we choose to, to hire within the department. So she's excellent. You can never pay her back.
No, I know.
thank you, Rosemary.
Thank you.
Ulysses, is there any kind of, I guess, software, that down the road that, because I mean, this permitting process, I know only gets more and more complicated and tedious, but I'm guessing that is also, additional IT help that's available, to address
We're
it.
working with the software that we basically changed, which is Track It. That's the one that we sort of went to, from SunGuard. But we're having some issues with the program. And the funny thing is that when I became the building official here, I went to several cities, and that's the one that normally was the best
use.
program out there. Miami Lakes uses it, Pinecrest uses it. I think there's another city also that uses the program. However, when I started the research, and until when we got the program, there was a lot of changes that were done within the company itself. So now we're left with a program that it's not 100% there yet. We're working on it, thanks to Tammy and Amy, and Rosemary.
And George,
And George, yes, definitely George.
Sits back there,
Definitely. So we're trying to get it there to where it's supposed to be. But it's been more difficult than I ever thought it was gonna be. Because for some reason or another, they're not delivering on their promise. And I feel bad because I was the one with the idea of bringing that program here. So we've been back and forth. Thanks to Tammy, we've been emailing them. We don't stop emailing them. I think they emailed you.
So to bring up your point, Mayor, your microphone, the microphone. The program itself will allow eventually for residents to do all of their permit application online. Right now, that aspect of it is not live. And we're still tweaking it a lot internally with the eTrack It and SunGuard people. And we're getting there, but it's been a very, very slow process. We actually got the program 2 years ago now, and they're still tweaking it. So we have to go from that Then we want to hit code because there's a lot of things missing still on the code side also that this program will help us issue violations, help her with some of her reporting. And then also licensing. That's another issue. That's the one we're currently working on because we're up for renewal for all of those business licenses right now. And Amy is having to do it manually. One by one, every business
582.
manually. Because the system is not working the way it should be.
Is that app that was discussed a few minutes ago with the other?
The same e-Tracket app. Yeah, and that is all, that it all encompass the code, the business licensing, the permitting, all of that.
So is there something, I'm just thinking ahead with annexation, and obviously the workload's going to increase and, and facilitating the process for across the board for our employees and, and definitely for the applicants. Is there some sort of software that we should be looking at, anticipating a cost, maybe, I don't know, once we've gone into this, how easy is it? I guess George would know to actually, I don't know what you call it, dovetail into another system or.
That this system, this e-Tracket coincides with SunGuard, which is what we use for our financial system.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So for us to change
Right,
the
right.
system
Okay.
over, we'd probably spend about another $500,000.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
Just to start, because this is the same system. So it's basically the father system is SunGuard HTE. And then underneath that is the umbrella of the e-Tracket,
The two networks.
the golf course, the rec
Mm.
center. So they have all of these different umbrellas under that father system.
You stay where we are.
And I think part of what's happening is that they're trying to grow too fast, too big. And then when they set up a small municipality like ours, there's no follow-up. There's no making sure that we're on track, making sure that we're completed. We actually went live 2 years ago on the Tracket system when realistically we shouldn't have gone live. And it was also, we had a whole bunch of changeover in his staff. So the person that was initiating the whole system was gone. And then when it was left to others in the office, they really didn't know. So of course, when we said go live, we're like, yeah, well, we've been waiting for this for a year now to go live. So of course we want to go live when it realistically on that back end of it, it wasn't ready to go live. So now we're having to backtrack and fix all of that happened before we went live. So
The program works.
it works well.
There's nobody that can pick up the phone and
Microphone.
Customer service.
He's right there. Yeah.
Yeah, you're calling a 1-800 number and nobody's physically.
Any of those other cities are using it, having no problem?
Sorry.
Yes. Having the same problem?
We have the city clerk's budget, some more microphones.
They're having the same problems.
Yes, let's do that. Yeah, I think that's something George probably knows, but I know it seems like with a lot of systems and stuff, it's that backup support of, right, that,
Oh my gosh. We tried. What's his Bill, we tried. It doesn't. Yes, please.
It makes it difficult. Working. Hello?
Yeah, you go, George. Yeah. George, you're not versed on this system that they're talking about?
No.
Interesting.
Not
I'm
really.
surprised.
No, it's an old database based on IBM DB2 databases going back to the 80s.
Yeah.
I think is when we
There's a program
up with,
called Kyler, and I think we use that.
We use it for
second time.
our executive time, which is our time clock system
Right.
right now.
They also have a
But they
building.
also have-
Mhm.
But we're talking about if
Yeah,
they were to
yeah.
change.
If you're
pretty
gonna, does Tyler software,
Mhm.
tell you from experience, you're probably looking at $600,000 to $700,000 at least.
oh my
Wow.
God.
Because Sweetwater is trying to get it. That's what it costs. And when I was at Miami Gardens, that's who they had. They had Tyler. But in Miami Gardens, back then, in 2009, it cost them almost $800,000 to do everything they wanted to do. So it's a big. Now, on top of that, whatever your building module is going to cost on top of all that. So, yeah, it was expensive.
Well, just know if you know, that
No, we got.
I think we're all we're all aware of how important that is, and and you're having issues and stuff down
Have
the
to find a
road,
solution.
obviously.
Yeah.
We
you
have
know.
to find a solution.
One or the other, we have to find a solution. There's no option there.
Anything we can do to support you guys, that's such an important function, and
Thank you.
and it's tied to the whole city. It's
Yeah.
Its technology is so wonderful, except when it's got glitches. It's yes. Okay.
Thank you,
Any
guys.
other
Talking about
questions?
Thank you.
technology, let's go to IT services, section 12.
Fine.
George,
Thank you, Ulysses,
Thank you.
Rosemary.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ulysses.
What page, William?
page 12-6. On section 12-6 is the IT budget. And it's about 9,300 or 2.3% higher than this year.
You should sit here, Tammy. Tammy, next time you sit here. 12.6, you said?
Anything for George while he's here?
12.5.
George, thank you for everything you do behind the scenes. to Keep our city running, I know.
I enjoy
It's. I call him occasionally when I'm having problems with my city phone or my city email or whatever, and he takes the time to try to solve that too.
I usually bring it to him, Maria. I just
do.
come
I
here. I just
sometimes I bring
I
it
say,
to
"Sir,
him."
here, I'll pick it up this afternoon. Something like that. And he always fixes it though.
And has to stop in the middle of the big, really big, important stuff that he's doing,
to
thinking,
fix
all
the
right,
phone,
let me see
I know.
how I can walk you through this.
While George
So-
is here, then I'll refer you to section 1.4, the wish list. There's one item there that the mayor referenced before. Under professional services, it's a resident business owner communication system via an app on your phone that will allow reporting of concerns, violations to the city, and allow the city to communicate with them regarding issues of importance to our residents and businesses. We've been after this, getting an app. There are different companies out there. We've gotten 3 quotes from 3 different companies. 2 of them were outrageous. This one that we're proposing for $15,264 a year is Civic Plus. Civic Plus, who runs our Municode system. Or Municode board. They bought Municode, right? Civic Plus. Right. They're a huge company. This app is being used in Opelika, Cooper City. There are different cities using it. If you go to Opelika, it's called what is it? C-Click?
It's called C-Click Fix.
C-Click Fix.
SEE.
C-Click Fix.
See,
You go to the city of Opelika, or
that's
you go to
cool.
the city of Cooper City and you put C-Click Fix
Mhm.
and you go in there, it's unbelievable. People can actually access our calendars from our website. They can access information about minutes of meetings, things of that nature. They can communicate with every department. The way it's set up, let's say they have a public works issue, they go on their app, they reach Public Works and, ask a question and all that. A work order is automatically
Get created.
generated. Then for example, the way you set up, let's say I set up Tammy, somebody accesses Tammy with a complaint or any of that, and then the next reporting is myself.
Mhm.
So what happens is in 24 hours, I'll get notification that a complaint was issued, right?
To me.
To Tammy, and that action was taken or action was not taken, so I can follow up on it. No, it's amazing.
Wow.
It's amazing.
No.
Uh,
So something like, say, I'm thinking of something typical, a resident is, the trees on their swale that they want them trimmed,
Right.
that they feel they could report that there to generate that,
Correct.
or even take a photo. of
Correct.
Put pictures on
want-
there.
and that
You
way
can
they
say,
have.
you can send pictures. Let's say you
So they have
see,
a record of it.
you see a commercial vehicle parked in a residential area. You take a picture of it, you can send it to code compliance
It says,
automatically. And there's follow-up.
Yeah.
Upload that picture automatically.
Yeah.
that'd save a lot of time,
Well,
ultimately.
This is number one priority for us in finance, so what we would like to do, if there's consensus on council that you want this, I'd like to have something done in September or September meeting, because we want to try to go live in beginning October
Quickly as
with this thing. So if there's consensus, we'll prepare an item and bring it to you in September. And we'll have all the backup information. As a matter of fact, what I can do is I can start emailing each of you the package that we received from the company. So you look, start going online and seeing it. It's really unbelievable.
Mayor, that sounds like a really good way for us to be more responsive and for the residents to communicate with the different departments. I'm all for it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I really do think, and I had heard this first from a council person at another city that they had something similar to this. Cause I was asking him, how do you, keep up with these complaints? And she goes, oh, we have an app and people take photo of it and they send it that it's a pothole into our city. And, I go, oh my goodness, that, she goes, it works really well. For the most part, there's a record. The person at least feels like, I know when I submitted it, we know that they did and we can respond. And even if it's that, we can't get to it right now, at least we're responding and letting them know that we acknowledge it. We have a record. So I definitely
can
for that price.
communicate with all the youth.
Yes, that sounds,
That-
now, is that 15,000? Is that
That's annually.
annually? And that doesn't matter the size of the residence, the
Number of
no
users,
number?
Nothing.
Awesome.
The other one was 3,000, the one that we had, you had initially come to us for, that was $3,000 per user.
Okay. Oh,
We had
User?
estimated that we were gonna have about 10 users. So automatically, we would have
That's
already had
$30,000.
$30,000
of
of just fees for that one, the one program.
We should, Mayor, we should certainly
Okay,
welcome
so
this
is that-
agenda item in
yes,
September.
is that, there's
Mhm.
consensus? All right.
yes.
Thank you, William,
You bet.
and Tammy and
Excellent.
George.
Excellent.
I think our residents will very much appreciate
All right, anything else for George? George?
Thank you, George.
Okay, let's go back up to, we missed the city clerk, section 3.
Thank you, George.
Oh, Chris, are you still there?
Oh, the planner. Yeah.
Yep. I probably went to bed. God.
Planner's budget is on, section 8. And, his budget is pretty basic. No major change from last year. As a matter of fact, a small reduction.
Did he ever go to that course? Remember, he never asks for anything.
COVID.
Oh, because of COVID, it got canceled. That was the only thing that guy ever asked for is the funding to go to that course that year. And we gave it to him. And then COVID came and he didn't.
Yeah,
get
a
the-
national conference.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I have no questions for planning and zoning. He does a great job.
Okay.
Takes a lot of undue.
And I am here, by the way.
Oh,
Oh, there
Oh,
you
you are there.
Yes.
and you're seeing us, you're going down 3.8% lower
Yes.
than previous year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I try to keep it basic and I'm not big on consultants and flowery. I don't feel that I need it.
Thank you, Chris. And thank you for all the work
Chris.
you do all year long.
That's because you know what you're doing, Chris.
I guess, and some people they would rather go out to consultants and have everything looked at by quote unquote experts, but if you're a good trained city planner, you know all that stuff and you don't need to, I don't think, go outside so often.
Like your take.
Certainly sometimes, of course, but many other times, no.
All right.
Chris, as far as IT, anything, any software, anything, you've got everything you need to do the work you're doing?
Yes, I do. Thank you. And like the rest of you, George is always very helpful when I have a problem with my computer or my phone. He's right on it, so everything I need.
Thanks a lot, Chris, for all you do, sir.
Thank you, Chris,
Okay.
for holding on. All right, section 3, let's go to the city clerk. Page 3-5 is her budget. Her budget is 10,553 or 3.2% higher. And that's basically because of the cost for the upcoming 2023 elections in the city.
Yeah.
Eric is still here, right? Yeah. You have any questions? for Eric?
What was that?
God. Hey, I've lost Heidi. I haven't heard from her.
I haven't heard from her all night. I see her.
The picture's
I
still
am
there.
still here.
Hey, Heidi.
I don't think legal's on the agenda tonight, is it?
No,
Not on the
Yeah.
agenda, but we're still here.
I have no questions for Erica whatsoever. Does a nice job in there, her and her staff.
I appreciate that. So often, like just in the middle of the week, I'm throwing things at you that I need you to do, and and you always get them out, and you're awesome.
Yeah, she does.
Well, city clerk, okay, let's go
All
to
right.
finance then, section 6. And the finance budget is made up of two divisions, administrative and professional services. Both divisions, the total budget is about 31,342 or 4% lower than last year. And that's basically due to the fact that last year, you remember we had budgeted for a full-time grant writer. Yep. Then we decided to contract that position out.
That grant writing position,
Excuse me?
if there's a limit, like it's a certain number of grants that she'll apply for, the contract that we have for the grant writer.
No, it hasn't put a limit.
Does she have a?
There is a limit, but we haven't exceeded that.
Yeah.
Where
Do the check?
they come out, we apply for them.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you mean when they come out and you apply for them? It's not like she comes to us and say, hey, we have
Grant-
these
or
options
grant
for you.
available.
Opportunity for the grant.
Available.
Gives you different periods of time in which the grants are available. Not open just year round. to apply
Okay.
for them.
Like she just told us about this,
The
for that,
FERDAP,
that opened up now, so we're applying for the
Perfect.
exercise.
Okay.
Well, what she did originally is, she actually met with, talked to each department and asked them, what is it that you need? And she knows as soon as the grant comes out, she'll call us and say, hey, this is available, this is what you need to do. to apply for it.
So this is the first grant that she called it?
No. She's
Parking
done,
study.
she did the parking study one.
got that
and,
one.
She's done a few of them.
Oh,
Just remember, we do them, but not necessarily do we get awarded the
right.
grant.
Yeah.
So,
oh, yeah.
and actually the
Oh,
FERDAP
that's
grant that we're coming up to the next meeting and on the 22nd is for us, for council to approve that we can go out for that grant. And it's due the next day after the day after council.
Oh, wow.
So it's make a decision that night on the 22nd and we'll submit it for the 23rd.
The services have paid for itself
There's no
already.
guarantee of it. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, yeah.
And then so the 7% higher for the entire department is again, looking at the 9% healthcare costs, correct? Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
Is that, the, what we pay for the audit, is that on here or that's separate? That comes.
Yeah, that's, what did
Look
it,
at page
6/4? Yeah, that, not quite halfway down.
Oh, I see it. Okay.
Audit fees?
Audit fees, 35.
Yeah.
Liam, how long have we been using the same audit company? Yeah.
I would say at least 7 or 8 years, at least. Yeah, and we're on a current contract. What do we have left? We gotta check.
We got to check, but we're on contract with them.
I think it's a 5-year renewal, if I remember right. I think that the last time we renewed it was 3 with 2 1-year extensions. Currently, the same company that we have is currently, was also hired by our pension board. So they're doing the pension audits too.
And remember, as he explained to you, when he came and had the, the audit
Sent the
report.
financials.
Yeah, he said that, remember, he changes internal.
Yeah, they rotate their
And they
team,
wrote
their
their
internal
team
team.
just so that they get fresh eyes
Mhm.
on our audits.
And no conflict of interest.
No. These awards that we get, they really are meaningful when you talk to other cities, to other councilmen, council people and mayors from other cities, and realize how many of them are having financial difficulty. And a lot of it is that their finance department hasn't really had the ability or willingness to have these excellent reports, and all of a sudden, they find out they're in trouble.
Yep.
So I really appreciate that from the finance department, the consistency that we have. William.
Would you share with them also what you told me about the events you went to, the vendors? When you went to approach the vendors, they told you, "Oh, we do."
Yes. When Councilman Best and I were at the League of Cities, the big annual, it's a great opportunity to just talk to other cities, elected officials from that state. But they have an exhibit hall, a big exhibit hall with a lot of, vendors set up that provide services or sell things for the cities, for municipalities. And I can't tell you how often I told William this. I was really surprised at very often when I would go to a booth and, and ask about something, I'm going, "Oh, we're looking at something like that." They go, "Wait, you're with Miami Springs? I think we're already talking to you." And they would look it up and they would say, yeah, you're on our list and we've already talked to you, and I know something to do with IT. And they go, "Oh, you're IT person? Yes, we know. Let's see, is it George?" And I go, "Yes." And they go, yeah, he's on board with this." So I was very impressed at the wealth of resources. What it meant to me is the wealth of resources that our city has been reaching out for to get information on, assistance on, get different quotes on. So I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, Mayor,
We're not
right.
in a little vacuum, they really, our small city is reaching out to a lot of resources.
And just about every year you go up there, it's the same thing. Yeah, Springs gets referenced. Springs gets
Yeah.
referenced. Springs. Yep. Yeah. I know a little while ago, and I wanted to do this in front of the vice mayor because him and I were at this event when this got given to us, and it's been on my dining room table for like 3 months or 2, however long it's been since 4th of July, right? Month. Which they presented to the city, to Walter and I. I thought it looked pretty good in Williams' office, so I want to give it to him. And I want to give it to him in front of the city council. So
All right, wonderful.
25 years of the car show in Miami Springs. 25 years consecutive.
Longest running in the state.
Longest running of having been the longest running car show in the state of Florida. Commemorating Independence Day, July 2022. There you go, Mike. There you go, Mike Senior.
Amy Spring. That is,
Dining room table.
that is something that our community really enjoys too.
Yeah.
The car shows, they love that.
Okay. We be
William,
done?
are we done?
We be done. We're done for today.
Okay, this meeting is
Hey.
adjourned.
Beat- Mary, you beat 10 o'clock.
Here. Oh, good. I'm glad I followed.
Meeting.
It feels like I'm maybe one of those really late college classes.
Yeah.
Those days.
Those were